Disc 4.
19. You shouldn't have booked the leisure centre for the party. Dom was sitting upright in our bed, his broad shoulders hunched like a cliff face next to me. I can't afford it. The kids' school fees are due this week. What the hell were you thinking? It was the morning of the twins' birthday, just before dawn. I wasn't sure Dom had slept at all. I certainly hadn't. And my body felt lethargic, but also wired, on high alert. I could sense his agitation even in the semi-darkness. I'd been aware of it most of the night, lying next to him as he tossed and turned, my eyes firmly shut, body rigid, as I tried not to give away that I'd heard him come in. I was thinking that I wanted to give the twins a lovely party for their 10th birthday with their friends. And you know what's really sad? I tried to keep the bitterness out of my tone, but it rankled that he was making a fuss about the cost of the party. He hadn't shown the same frugality last night, judging by the way he lurched around our bedroom, bouncing off the walls when he tried to sneak in during the early hours. I could still smell the alcohol evaporating from his pores. No, but you're going to tell me, aren't you? What's sad is that every friend they've invited is from their old school. No one but the kids they've grown up with, the ones you don't want them to have as friends anymore because they haven't got the right background or the right sort of parents or enough money to go to a posh school. Annabelle loves that school, he insisted, rubbing his hands tiredly over his eyes. Does she? I said, letting scepticism coat my words. Does she? I thought anxiously, wondering if this was one more thing she hadn't been able to tell me. Yes, she does. She told me so, he said, and I could hear the smug undertone. When? My voice was faint now. What? I could make out the glint of his eyes in his shadowy profile. When did she tell you? Where were you? What were you doing? I said more confidently, certain he was making it up to hurt me. I tried to think when Dom might have had a tete-a-tete with our daughter. It was hardly ever around these days. Oh, the other day, whenever. Stop interrogating me, for God's sake, he barked. Shh, you'll wake them up. This is supposed to be a special day for them, remember? I reached out a pacifying hand, but withdrew it at the last moment, suspecting he might slap it away. For them, or for you? His voice sliced through the air. Surely for us both. And you. All of us, Dom, I said wearily, bracing myself for the row that seemed inevitable now, but having little energy for it. What happened to us being a family? You're never here anymore. You're always angry. You just don't seem happy at all. Dom, we can't go on like this. I'm sorry. His voice softened unexpectedly, blowing the faintest whisper of hope across my despair. It's just, I so want to give you all the best of everything. It's all I've ever wanted. His frown was plaintive. I know you do. Look, let's just try to have a happy day, shall we? Just get through one more day without a fight. Celebrate the twins' birthday. They deserve a bit of fun after what? A chink of light through the curtains caught the glint of his blue eyes as he angled his body to loom over me, his steady gaze challenging me to answer truthfully. After how difficult things have been these last few months, I said, hearing my own breathlessness but willing myself not to look away. It had taken me a while, but eventually I'd learned my lesson. Maintain eye contact. Betray no fear. Sometimes that stopped his anger from boiling over. I had to be honest with him, but I also needed to keep things calm. Meet him halfway without riling him or humiliating myself further. Difficult, you say? You been paying any bills lately then? Because they're sure as hell not paying themselves. He rubbed his hands over his face again, and for a second I thought he was going to drop the subject and back off. I didn't know money was so tight. Why didn't you say? Why didn't you ask? That's not fair. You've always told me that you manage the finances and I manage the kids. That's what we agreed, isn't it? And besides, the party isn't costing much. His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, taking me by surprise. Immediately, I felt the blood pulsing in my constricted veins. "What bit don't you get?" he said, his voice hard again. "I can't afford a party." He spelled it out with a bone-snapping squeeze to my wrist after each word. "We're practically broke. The business is sinking. We're in danger of losing the house. That meeting in Manchester I told you about after the party is actually a job interview, and if I don't get it, we're screwed. The bank will repossess the house." I was so shocked I could barely speak. "Why didn't you tell me, Dom?" "And what exactly would you have been able to do about it? It's not like you have any head for business, not like Lucy. She knows." "Lucy?" "Yes, Lucy. But don't worry, she won't be conveniently around the corner from my office if I do get offered this job. We'll have to move to Manchester." His voice was flat and hard. "But I don't want to move. The twins are settled here." "Leave my home, go to a place where I wouldn't know anyone, without any friends to support me, trapped with a husband who—" "You don't have a choice. Look what happens when you make the decisions. You've booked that scuzzy leisure centre for the kids' party. I don't like them swimming there. It's full of old pervs. I thought you'd have more sense." "Your brother works there," I said, trying to pull my wrist away. I was starting to get a dead arm. "Yes, well, quite. I'm surprised they haven't sacked him after that incident last year. I spent the best part of last night in the Bell Inn listening to his usual trumped-up twaddle. Said he wanted to talk to me about something. Only had to buy him at least 7 whiskies first, of course, before he'd actually tell me what it was. Same old Max, same old shit. He surpassed himself this time, though." He finally let go of me and sagged forward to rest his arms on his raised knees, his shoulders slumping. "What incident? What is it? Tell me." I wasn't interested in pub talk, but I did want to know if something bad had happened at the pool where I'd booked the twins' party. A chill ran through my body. There were far too many secrets. Dom had clearly stopped telling me anything of any importance, and Annabelle had stopped confiding in me, shutting me out of her world. The former shocked me, but the latter was devastating. "Dom, I read Annabelle's diary last night," I said when he remained silent. The words sounded thick, my voice deeper than usual. I was struggling to get my breath now. "And?" He raised his eyebrows, mocking my concern. "And I think something bad has been happening. Something truly awful." My throat was so tight I could barely speak. I hadn't been going to tell him. Annabelle had refused to talk to me when I'd sat on the end of her bed and gently asked her about her diary. Rage and despair had been ripping a hole in my heart all night, but Dom and I had long since stopped sharing our pain. I'd lain in bed, thinking of nothing else, trying to work out what to do, and now my agony was bursting out of me. I had to tell him. He needed to know. Something had to be done. "Don't be so overdramatic. Give the girl a break. You're always so hard on her." "I'm not," I said, my heart aching. "Go on then, what is it?" "No, don't tell me. She's been smoking. Or she tried a sneaky cider at the drama club disco. Come on, hit me with it. What shocking secret have you discovered about your sweet, innocent 9-year-old daughter?" "I'm serious, Dom. I think someone has been trying to touch her, or make her touch them. I don't know, just something isn't right. I tried to ask her about it last night, but she refused to say anything." "What did she say exactly?" His big body stilled. His eyes bore into mine. "I told you nothing. That's the point. She just said nothing, that she's fine." "So what's the problem?" "The problem is I don't believe her." "See, this is your trouble, Maddie. You always think you know better than everyone else. The perfect mother who is right about everything and everyone else. Dom, you just sit there on your high fucking horse and you can't bear anyone or anything that tarnishes your halo. You worship Aiden because he's a soft mummy's boy, does everything you ask. But you come down hard on Annabelle because she challenges you, because she wants a bit of independence and doesn't want you poking into all her business. And that makes you feel like you're not quite the perfect parent. She makes you angry, doesn't she? Go on, admit it. She infuriates you and you hate that about yourself, about her. He whipped back the duvet and twisted round to sit on the edge of the bed. I turned away, not wanting to see his naked body, too upset to allow that intimacy between us. That's not true, and stop changing the subject all the time. This isn't about me, it's about Annabelle. No, it isn't. It's about you needing to appreciate what you have in your life. Concentrate on our marriage for once and stop living vicariously through your daughter. Let her go, Maddie. Let her go. He stood up and reached for his jeans and shirt on the chair, yanking them on but leaving his shirt hanging open. It was so hot in the bedroom. I watched him fasten his belt. I wanted to get up too. Get up, out and on with the day. Clearly neither of us was going back to sleep now, even though it couldn't have been much after 5. Only I wanted to wait until he'd left the room. I was trying really hard not to cry. Dom found that just as infuriating as my daring to disagree with him. When had he stopped seeing me as the most beautiful woman in the world? When had I stopped seeing him as my hero? Perhaps we'd hit the top of the slippery slope years ago. Certainly the events of our 9th anniversary had been a low point. But it seemed to me that things had really begun to slide when Dom decided the twins needed to go to private school. Yet Dom had been the one to insist on it. The best of everything, never settle for second best. That's what he always said, and we'd all paid the price for his pride, his arrogance. He was buckling under the pressure of expenses he couldn't meet and aspirations he couldn't afford. The last 9 months had been a fast track to hell, I acknowledged bitterly. Dom had become increasingly absent, and whenever he was around, he was fraught with stress. And now I realise why. With his business struggling, the self-imposed burden of the school fees must have been the last straw. If only I'd known. But he'd never told me. He'd just taken his frustration out on me with sarcasm and aggression. I'd grown more and more quiet and withdrawn, terrified of provoking his moods. Aiden, too, seemed to be shrinking into himself. Only Annabelle had managed to keep a smile on her face, but it wasn't genuine. I knew then that it had been an act, and I'd missed all the signs. Missed them because I was too busy scrabbling around in the scattered wreckage of my marriage. I had to put it right. I had to do something about it, all of it, before it was too late. Let her go. What? So you can turn her against me and have her all to yourself? I said, knowing I was playing with fire. I didn't want bruises on the twins' birthday. I just wanted them to have a special day, a birthday they'd never forget. Fuck you, he hissed. Just leave me alone, Dom. Please, just leave me alone. I said, my throat aching with the tears I refused to shed in front of him and the effort of keeping my voice low. The twins were still asleep. I didn't want them to hear us rowing, again. Is that really what you want? For me to just step aside? Just for a second he looked sad, and I wondered if it was still possible to reach him, the old Dom. Because it's not what I want, he said before I could answer, and his voice sounded strangled. I've given everything I've got to this family, and I'm not letting you all go, not without a fight. I really thought you'd be happy about the party, Dom, I said quietly. And it honestly didn't cost much. Max got me a discount on the booking, and he's going to help me set it all up. He's coming at 10 and no surprise there. Lucy helped me with the party food, I said, ignoring his usual sarcasm about his brother. The twins are so excited about their big day. I thought you'd be happy. You thought, but you didn't ask, did you? You didn't ask me what I wanted. You just went ahead, and that's not fair. You always leave the kids' stuff to me. You don't have the time, and I'm better at it. That's what you always say. I could hear desperation in my voice, a mute plea for him to remember that we used to be a team, each fulfilling our own role so that we complemented the others. Work, home, school. We each played to our strengths, and we were happy. At least we had been, once. After what I'd read in Annabel's diary, I wasn't sure I'd ever be happy again. Dom crossed the bedroom in one long stride and knelt on the bed, looming over me, his face so close to mine I could see the beads of sweat on his morning stubble and smell the expensive aftershave he doused himself in so liberally. I'd left the bedroom window open last night, but the air was still stifling with summer humidity. I could feel heat coming in angry waves off Dom's broad chest, and with scared eyes I tracked the dark arrow of hair arrogantly pointing down towards the waistband of his jeans, the bulge at his crotch. With his arms braced either side of my head, his biceps also bulged, taunting me with the leashed power in his body. I pressed myself back into the pillows, heart slamming against my ribcage, praying that he wouldn't launch himself on me. Not today. Please, not today of all days. I held myself rigid as he leaned in closer still, his knees sliding forcefully between my legs and pressing painfully against me, his breath hot on my face. I was just trying to make you feel better about having turned into such a useless fucking passenger. You bastard, I said on a shocked intake of breath, and was as surprised as Dom when my hand seemed to jerk of its own free will towards his face, the slap ringing loudly in the quiet of the dawn. Bitch, he spat, his punch bouncing like a piston off my cheekbone, jolting my head back with almost neck-snapping force. I turned away and buried my face in the pillow, waiting for more blows, praying no bones would be broken this time. Hiding a cracked rib while trying to be jolly decorating the Christmas tree with the twins had been excruciating. Dom's body weight shifted and a gust of air rushed through the room, followed by the sound of the front door slamming moments later. The whole house seemed to shake. Mummy? Annabel's voice from the next room was sleepy, uncertain. It's all right, Angel. I'll be there in a second. Try to go back to sleep. Weak with relief, I tried to swallow around the lump in my throat and keep my voice steady. My cheekbone was throbbing, the pain so sharp I thought I might black out. Is that Daddy going out? Has he forgotten to get our present? Has he gone to the shops? When is he coming back? She appeared suddenly at my side of the bed, unable to wait for answers. Her hair was gloriously wild, and her purple nightie was endearingly crumpled and didn't quite reach her knees. It's okay, darling, I soothed, reaching for her. He's just popped out. He'll be back in time for your party, I'm sure. Daddy wouldn't let his little princess down now, would he? 20. Fear shoots like electricity through my brain until I'm convinced it's about to explode. I hear buzzing, and bright lights seem to flash in front of my eyes. First the left one, then the right. There is a sharp pain in my left arm. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. I twist and turn, fighting it, battling horror and heartache, fear and suspicion. I force my sleep-deadened legs to move, running out of my bedroom and down the stairs, desperately looking for something, someone to help me. I hear footsteps again, somewhere in the house, and I freeze, looking frantically around me. I see faces swimming in front of my burning eyes. The twins' teachers, past and present, coaches at their clubs, other parents, our neighbours, Max, Dom. But each time I hone in on one, my fingers twitch and curl at thin air, and I remember clawing my way through clammy soil, my arms scratched by thorns, blood soaking through my clothes and vomit filling my mouth as my arms reached out for Annabel. There is only one thing I'm clear about. Aidan lived, Annabel died, and I made the call. I know this because I've seen my guilt branded on Aidan's face for all these months. I've heard every silent roar of blame that Dom is managing, for once not to bellow in my face. Traumatic shock may have stolen my voice, but their icy silence tells me everything I need to know, as does my heart that is dying inside me, crushed beneath the weight of the only dreadful fact I know for certain. My daughter is dead, and the killer, whoever he is, may have pulled the trigger, but it hardly matters who he was or why he did it, because I let Annabel go, and I hate myself for it. And my husband and son hate me too. I've lost everyone I've ever loved, and it's all my fault. I open my mouth and I scream. Part 2. 21. Someone is stroking my hand. I remember that touch. It feels familiar, comforting. But my whole arm feels bruised and battered. I hear the bell-like tinkle of wind chimes, and it reminds me of hazy autumn afternoons in my garden. The ashy incense of bonfire smoke catching my throat as I sweep up golden drifts of leaves. The twins laughing as they throw handfuls at each other. A ripple of cool breeze brushes against my cheeks. My eyes are tightly shut, but a bright light burns through my eyelids. I'm close. I can feel it. The sunlight is strong on my face, the bright light urging me onwards, upwards. I'm almost there. I've almost surfaced. Is this death? A bright light at the end of the tunnel? Don't be soft, Mum. There's no such place as heaven. Then how will I ever see you again, Annabel? If there's no heaven, I have no hope left at all. Calmness seeps through my veins like a liquid drug. The clouds part and the sun is shining brightly. Only it's not the sun. It's an angular metal lamp. Its harsh white bulb directed straight into my eyes. Suddenly the powerful beam shifts to one side, but my eyes are still blinded, my retinas dazzled by the burning brightness. Mrs. Castle, can you hear me? I try to place the voice, but no connection registers. Is it my next-door neighbour? What is Mr. Cooper doing in my house? Was it his footsteps I heard on the stairs, following me round the house? I try to turn in the direction of the voice, but my head feels like it's caught in a vice. My eyes ache, but they at least move, and through dim, shadowy vision, I can just about make out dark hair, a white coat, a solid, masculine form. My mind tries to stencil the outline of this tall, lean shape onto the hunched and elderly figure of my neighbour. I close my eyes as I realise it's not a fit. This isn't Mr. Cooper. Mr. Cooper is 80 and squat. He doesn't have this commanding, upright stature of a soldier or a... I force myself to open my eyes again, squinting against the bright light above me, and I see an unfamiliar room. I'm not at home then. And there is something shiny hanging from the stranger's neck. Is that a... My brain fumbles around for the word. Stethoscope? Mrs. Castle, my name is Professor Hernandez, and I am a doctor. Can you hear me? He repeats. Such a calm, soothing voice. But what is that accent? It's not London, it's not even English. I frown, trying to identify it, and the man clearly takes it as a sign that I can hear him. He nods approvingly at me, reminding me more of the twins' new headmaster than our GP. And in any case, our regular doctor is a woman, so who is...
That's good. Well done. Take your time. You're going to feel very strange at first, so please try not to be scared.
He places a syringe on a small metal tray and then moves closer, leaning towards me, blocking out the light and filling my entire field of vision. I see brown skin, a neatly buttoned white shirt, and tightly knotted navy tie beneath the white coat. Closer still, I can hear him breathing, his chest rising and falling steadily. He's older than he sounds, I think. His hair is greying and there are lines around the black eyes that observe me steadily from beneath low, dense brows. Clear, alert, unblinking. Scared? Why should I be scared when these gentle eyes are here to watch over me? I was scared at home, I remember, but not here. Where is here? I look around, blinking until the blurriness sharpens into clarity. Apart from the lamp over my bed, the room is dimly lit. I make out 2 doors, one at the end of the room and one to the side. There is a curtained window to my right and a collection of machines, monitors and digital displays to my left. A fan purrs gently on a side table, making the vase of flowers next to it shimmy and sway as if dancing to the tinkling tune of the wind chimes hanging nearby. I notice a clipboard hooked over the end of my bed. The frame is white metal, the sheets are white, the walls and ceiling are white. The stark room triggers a decade-old memory of lying in the Westmid postnatal ward, surrounded by new mums, desperately trying to block out the sounds of chattering visitors and crying babies, staring at the ceiling and whispering over and over to myself the names of my newborn twins, Annabelle and Aidan, Annabelle and Aidan. One hand hovered over them constantly as I anxiously watched their every breath, never quite letting go of the plastic crib at the side of my hospital bed. The other grasped the metal bedstead and squeezed hard as I battled waves of cramping pain after the complicated delivery and subsequent operation that lasted hours, but still left me with no hope of having any more babies. Annabelle and Aidan. They would be my only children. They were already my whole world. I absorbed the memory and peer curiously once more around the room. So, I'm in a hospital. Is that what this place is? Did I faint, black out again? I remember running wildly round the house. Did I fall? Who found me? Aidan? Questions crowd my mind, and I feel the first stirrings of panic, worried that Aidan came home from school and found me collapsed on the floor and was scared. I can't remember what happened, but it must have been pretty bad for me to end up in hospital for only the 2nd time in my life.
Try to stay calm.
That husky, mellow voice at my side again, a gentle hand on my arm.
I know you must be feeling confused, so I'll try to explain the situation as simply as I can. Please, do your best to lie still, just for the moment. We're taking good care of you. You are completely safe. There is nothing for you to worry about now, except getting better.
Getting better? Nothing to worry about. Has no one told this man that I've lost my daughter? That I was on the verge of leaving my husband and that my world has shattered into a million pieces?
Mrs. Castle,
he continues, before I can correct his assertion that my life is a bowl of cherries.
You are a patient in the Neurological Rehabilitation Centre here at the Royal Buckinghamshire Hospital. I'm a consultant here and I'm in charge of your care. I'm happy to tell you that you're showing excellent signs of making a good recovery.
Neurological. I did bang my head then. I wonder if that was before or after I screamed. I remember the scream being torn from my throat, an actual, audible sound in the real world, not just echoing inside my mind. And ponder whether something as simple as a blow to the head has finally knocked my selective mutism for 6. Maybe something, what, has literally knocked the sense back into me. Real physical trauma to the skull, jolting my stubborn amygdala out of auto-freeze mode. I open my mouth to test this theory, but frustratingly, no words emerge, even though the voice inside my head is loud and insistent. It's like someone has cut a wire, pulled a plug. I'm jabbering in my mind, but no sound is coming out. I feel cross with myself. I can't just lie here. I had something important to do. What did I have to do?
You've suffered a head trauma and have been in a coma for some time.
The man's speech is careful, measured, and unhurried, in stark contrast to the wild, panicky voice still screeching inside my head. Coma? From a bang on the head, a fall, for some time? I close my mouth, which feels parched, and give up trying to speak. Listening is so much easier than battling. It's far less exhausting to give in and do as I've been instructed, to just lie here and let this kindly stranger talk to me, even if his words don't make any sense. I've been in a coma. I watch his mouth as if lip reading might help. But I'm not deaf, I can hear perfectly. I just don't understand what he's telling me. I can't feel any connection to the information he's relaying, the person he's describing. It's like he's talking about someone else.
Emergency surgery was carried out at the West Middlesex Hospital in Isleworth. Once you were stable, they transferred you here for rehabilitation.
Still nothing clicks. I understand the words individually, but I can't fit them together into a recognizable meaning. He reaches for the clipboard and consults his notes, and I'm impatient to get a closer look, wondering if they might help me grasp the situation more quickly. But when I try to lift my head, it feels as though it's weighed down with rocks. I can't move. I'm not exactly in pain. I'm just numb. Am I paralyzed? Fear darts through me, and I know I'm holding my breath as I make a deliberate effort to twitch my fingers and toes. I only release a deep sigh of relief when the sheet rises up slightly where my feet must be, and I see my fingers lifting one by one as if I'm silently rehearsing a piano tune. I notice my wedding ring is missing from my left hand, and I frown.
Movement may prove difficult at first, Mrs. Castle.
The doctor goes on, more softly now, his steady gaze observing my downturned mouth.
Think of it this way. Your body has been asleep for more than 3 months. You're not simply going to bounce back. There's been minimal nerve damage, and you've shown reassuringly limited signs of muscle atrophy, but even so, physical recovery takes varying amounts of time after a coma. We have the very best facilities here, though. Your recovery program will include physiotherapy, hydrotherapy. More than 3 months.
I zone out, taking in little beyond this one simple fact. And I widen my eyes until my eyebrows can't arch any higher. I still don't trust my voice to work, but I need to convey my shock and disbelief somehow. One-sided conversations are so tiring, I think, wondering if I'll ever be able to have a proper two-way communication with anyone ever again.
You look shocked, and I understand that,
he adds gently, bending to lean closer, blotting out the infernal bright light once more.
I'm sure it is frightening and very disorienting to discover you lost such a chunk of time. You did begin to wake up after you arrived here, as a matter of fact, but I'm afraid you became extremely unsettled at that point. I would suggest, however, that such agitation is to be expected in the circumstances.
Circumstances? Yes, that would be my daughter's murder then. Thank you for acknowledging that. At last we're on the same page.
We acted quickly to avoid any potential for cerebral compromise, swelling of the brain and so forth,
he tells me, straightening up, his tone brisk now.
With your husband's consent, my team and I took the decision to induce a medical coma to allow for the better facilitation of recovery. Hence, you have remained.
Wait, did he just say with my husband's consent? His voice is almost hypnotically smooth. The words slip silkily across my understanding like oil over polished stone, gone before I can fully grasp them. Dom has been here. But he hurt me. I was scared he would hurt my son. So I didn't leave him, or something. Someone stopped me. He's been with Aiden all the time I've been. I rock my head from side to side in agitation now, lost in confusion, racked with sudden fear, for myself and for my son. My brain tells me that I'm clenching my fists, but when I look down, my hands are flat and unmoving against the sheets. There's a mottled purple bruise where a cannula is inserted into the back of my left hand, connecting me to a drip by a plastic tube that winds its way to a little bag filled with clear liquid, suspended from a hook on a metal stand. I try to press my chin against my chest to examine myself more closely, wondering exactly how incapacitated I am. But again, my body seems slow to follow my brain's instructions. Still, I can make out little round pads attached to my chest, a baffling array of tubes and wires wriggling like a child's follow-the-line puzzle towards the flickering digital displays.
Don't worry about the gadgets and wires, the doctor says, misinterpreting my distress and abruptly changing the subject as he watches me stare at the formidable collection of equipment. He waves a dismissive hand at them. I know they look scary, but they're largely precautionary for monitoring purposes. They're pretty tame on the whole. They won't hurt you. And remember, they all have an off switch. Man rules machine. He gives a quick smile. I have no means of correcting his assumption and telling him that it's not the machines I'm worrying about, but my husband. He definitely has no off switch. No one rules him. Was it Dom who found me? I wonder if he called an ambulance or drove me to the hospital himself. But he was at work. I was alone and chasing desperately round the house, looking for something. What? I remember feeling like someone was watching me the whole time. Did they do this to me? I force my breathing to slow, my thoughts to be still, to empty and allow memory to resurface and fill in the blanks. But nothing comes. They're just sensors, so we can make sure your body is responding normally. The doctor continues, frowning slightly now as I stare blankly at the monitors. I'm not even really seeing them. I'm still wondering about Dom and how I got here in the first place. I have personally been monitoring you, Mrs. Castle. It's a relief to see you waking up this evening. I was growing concerned these last 48 hours, I'll admit. You were becoming agitated and disturbed again, and your vital signs were showing signs of distress. Your heart rate, blood pressure, EEG. I drift off as the voice lists a whole ream of medical words I don't understand. It's such a gentle voice. The accent is Spanish, I realize. I want to lean into it, close my eyes and sleep. Stay with me, Mrs. Castle. You're doing really well. I feel my eyelids prized back one at a time, but I don't flinch as he shines a little torch into my eyes. My mind is looking inwards. I'm no longer present. I'm drifting. It's very important you don't get distressed. We need to keep you as calm as possible while we give your body and mind a chance to fully wake up. I know all this is a lot to take in, but there's no rush. He holds my hand while I try and concentrate on slowing my breathing. There you are. Just relax. You must take it easy. Take it easy. He keeps repeating this, as though there's a chance of my leaping out of my hospital bed and doing a quick jig around the room. Try to stay calm, he continues as I glare at him. Calm?
It would be a miracle if I ever feel calm again.
It is a miracle you are even alive after the injuries you sustained, the doctor echoes uncannily. You are my star patient, let me tell you that much. Even with the absolute best 24-hour care we offer here, very few patients come back to us after being shot in the head.
22. I can hear the wind chimes again. They are close by. My eyes open, and I can see that the thin mauve curtains have been drawn back now, bellowing like a ship's sail into the room, jangling the chimes. I'm relieved that the blinding lamp over my bed has been switched off. Daylight pours through the half-open window, and for the first time I notice the whiteboard opposite my bed. There are notes scribbled all over it, diagrams scrawled in dark ink. I recognize them, and something clicks into place. My whiteboard. No sign of Shay, though. Where's the ghost of crushes past when you need him? I think, and a bitter laugh forms deep in my chest. It hurts badly. I must have fallen asleep, overwhelmed by the information given to me by that treacle-rich Spanish voice. I still can't move my head very much, but I can swivel my eyes to the left, just to check that I didn't imagine the machines, that I'm not back in my living room waiting for Aidan to get home from school. Every time I open my eyes, the world around me seems to have changed. I don't trust my own brain. But little green numbers blink stoically at me, and there's something comforting about the repetitively flashing digits and silently watching monitors. I'm definitely in hospital then. I hear a soft electric hum and a familiar low beeping sound. I've heard these sounds before, I think, with a jolt of recognition, surely only moments ago. But I thought they were noises in my house. I thought I was at home, and these were the everyday sounds of domestic life. I think of the grocery lorry I imagined reversing, preparing to make its delivery to Mr. Cooper next door. The beeping warning signal weirdly switching to the back garden. They weren't sounds from home. They're medical sounds. The soundtrack of hospital life, I realise. So how was I hearing these noises in my living room? I try to lift my left arm to call for someone, but it's a dead weight. I find I'm able to bend my neck slightly, though, arching it to the left, so that I can see the cannula disappearing into the back of my wrist, beneath a clean, freshly applied bandage. I can feel liquid flowing into my veins, rushing through my body, waking me up again. Yes, I'm awake, which means I must indeed have been asleep, or unconscious. For 3 months? The doctor's words come back to me in a frightening crush. But Buenos dias, Mrs. Castle. Take your time. You've slept very well. All night, in fact. How are you feeling this morning? The doctor is at my side again. So he's real too, not just the figment of a bad dream. He's standing in exactly the same place as before, and I have the sense that he's been right next to me the whole time, even while I've been sleeping. Briskly, he takes hold of my right hand and squeezes it, comforting me or testing my physical reactions. Or maybe both. It feels good to have someone hold my hand, I realise, and I'm relieved to find that my brain is still receiving messages from my nerve endings, even if it's having difficulty sending commands in the opposite direction. I may not be able to move, but I can still feel. And I felt his touch before, I'm sure of it. Always so tender, soothing, apart from that one time when... My voice! It worked! Suddenly I register that the doctor heard me. He was responding to my words, not just second-guessing my mood and facial expressions. Surprise fills me with elation. I can speak, I say, testing my newfound ability again. Indeed you can, he says simply,
as if it's not the biggest deal ever. You have been extraordinarily lucky, Mrs. Castle. Lucky? That's not a word I feel much connection with.
I don't feel lucky,
I say croakily, reminding myself to speak the words aloud. Perhaps not, but as my mother would say, El fin est debido el honor. All's well that ends well. He translates with a quick smile, picking up the clipboard from the end of my bed and studying it.
This isn't my idea of a happy ending.
I close my eyes, remembering Aidan and Annabel jubilantly shouting out in unison, "The end!" as we finished each bedtime story. You have survived. You have woken up. It is a positive outcome, Mrs. Castle, he says firmly, a stern father rebuking a stubborn child. That is what I mean by lucky, and all the signs are very positive for a complete recovery. In fact, you won't be needing these hideous beasts much longer, he says, pointing to the machines with his ballpoint pen before writing something else on his clipboard. He hangs it back over the end of my bed before efficiently changing the drip back. Injuries, I repeat, trying to remember what he told me before I went to sleep. Something important. Your surgeon did an excellent job. Thankfully, there has been no lasting brain damage. As I say, lucky. We'll continue to monitor you very closely, of course, he adds, stepping up to the whiteboard where he jots more notes in small, neat handwriting. We'll help you find the happy ending you're looking for. I'll help you, he says, throwing a quick, preoccupied smile over his shoulder before turning back to his notes. For a few seconds I watch his hand move fluidly across the whiteboard, underlining words, jotting down new ones. Nothing makes any sense. I thought that whiteboard was only in my mind, a memory of university lectures that I resurrected to help me process my thoughts and bring them to order. But here it stands, identical in all respects. How very strange. It's like I've walked into a living dream. I look around the white room, wondering what or who might appear next. Annabel, I whisper, breathing her name from the depths of my soul. Aidan, I say more loudly, urgently. Immediately I want to say it again, just for the pleasure of hearing it, just to marvel at how wonderfully, banally familiar my voice sounds, as if it's no big deal to be talking to a strange doctor, as if I could easily have spoken at any time. But I haven't been able to talk to my son. That much I know was real. Does Aidan know I'm here? Who's Aidan, Mrs. Castle? The doctor puts down his pen and turns to look at me. He's my son. There's a lump in my throat. My words barely managed to scrape over it. Ah, yes, I remember now. Your husband did mention taking your little boy to visit you at the West Mid after your surgery. He said it would be too upsetting to bring him here, though. Children often find hospitals scary, it is true. It's often best they don't visit until a patient is recovering fully. Aidan visited me? Was it him playing the recorder, trying to wake me up? Annabel would have teased him. Mum hates that squeaky noise aid. But that was obviously the point, my clever boy. If he'd played his violin, the beautiful sound would probably have sent me deeper into the coma. But the piercing notes of his recorder could penetrate even the sleep of death. Annabel would have been proud of her brother. She would have given him one of her quick hugs, her sparkling smiles. And I believe the new school term has just started. So Carol, my nurse, tells me, your husband is probably trying to maintain the normalities of daily routines while you recover. Just started. So it's September and I've been here for 3 months. Dates whirl through my mind. I've been here since the twins' birthday, the end of May, I say breathlessly, watching the doctor check his notes. That is correct.
But that means everything is a muddle, and there's something important that I still can't grasp. Something that keeps sliding away from me. It feels like my mind is frozen, and as it gradually thaws, my thoughts are melting and trickling away into a dark puddle.
Take your time.
So Dom visited me here, in hospital, in this room. My voice is a dry, croaky squeak, and my throat feels raw.
That's also correct,
the doctor says, and pours a glass of water from a jug on the bedside table. He holds it to my lips and encourages me to take a few sips. I struggle a little, and he grabs a tissue, pressing it gently to my mouth and chin afterwards. But I've been at home. My husband has been at work. Aiden has been at school. I was looking for something. I thought someone was following me round the house, that they'd come back to hurt me. But I was here all this time, ever since Annabelle. Ever since...
Coma is a fascinating phenomenon, the doctor says, interrupting me and resting a calming hand on my arm. I'm sure your brain has been unraveling a lot of things while you've been unconscious, processing memories from the past, perhaps, retrieving scenes and conversations you believed were taking place in the present moment, but were, in fact, all recollections from various incidents in your life. Trauma does strange things to the brain, Mrs. Castle. There's plenty we don't yet understand about it.
That doesn't help me much, I say, feeling a sigh roll up through my chest. He smiles.
I'm sure it all felt very real, as dreams do.
Dreams. Memories. So how do I know what was real and what was only in my imagination?
Reality is often a matter of perception, the doctor continues, pulling up a chair and sitting down next to me. Truth is often something we rewrite in our heads over time. We have a memory of a certain day, perhaps, or a particular event, but sometimes it is only that we've seen a photo of it. Our brain has constructed an entire narrative around a single image. It's quite remarkable. One snapshot can conjure up a whole sequence of events that may or may not have taken place. Smells can often trigger the same process in the unconscious mind. Sounds, too.
The wind chimes.
Your husband brought them to remind you of home, he said. You like them?
Very much. And I heard them.
But of course, you have been unconscious, but your brain, your senses, has remained very much alive. This is not uncommon, he says, watching the frown I can feel creasing my brow.
You mean I'm not just some kind of freak of nature? I remember how Dom teased me all those years ago. I don't remember him sitting at my hospital bedside.
Far from it. A high proportion of patients who experience unconsciousness report that they remember a great deal about what took place around them during that time. They also indicate having had an emotional response to those occurrences. Think about a person with visual impairment, for instance. Their hearing often becomes acute. When consciousness is impaired, as in coma, the unconscious mind sometimes comes into a life of its own. The human brain is a beautiful creation.
His eyes light up as he talks about what is clearly his life's work. But I bet it looks as freaky as hell. I wonder Dom stay.
Grown-ups can find hospital visits as upsetting as children, of course. My nurse told me that she found your husband trying to shake you awake. Poor man. In some ways, coma is harder for the relatives, you see. You are asleep, but they have to stand by helpless warn you.
He's coming back, though.
He hasn't returned since that first visit, which I must confess is pretty normal. As I say, these situations can be distressing, but we've kept in touch with your progress. I've contacted him personally to let him know you're awake.
His dark eyes are alert to my responses, flicking watchfully over my face and body as he pushes back his chair and stands up, hovering calmly at my bedside, a white-coated guardian angel. Close my eyes, imagine Dom and dish me away, and I hand squeezing my twin my ring, fingers digging in my cone. Was that actually Dom trying to wake me up? Was that actually Dom trying to wake me up? I thought I was dreaming. Will you call him and ask him to bring Aiden to see me? I feel a tear roll down my face. I miss him. I miss my daughter. As I say the word, my voice cracks and I half squeak, half sob, the worry burning in my chest. Aiden must be so lonely, so devastated. Tears roll freely now, and my breath comes in choking gasps.
I do understand, Mrs. Castle. I know that to imagine a child's pain is the hardest thing for any parent or any doctor. He adds, looking after children is one of the most rewarding but also one of the toughest parts of my job. Sadly, it's often a relief when pain stops and they are at peace. Death is devastating, but it brings relief from suffering.
And I wish I hadn't been so lucky. I wish I'd died too.
23. Please, don't upset yourself, Mrs. Castle. I don't want anything to cause you more stress. Your body and mind have endured a tremendous ordeal. You must take your time. Try to stay calm. Don't try to grasp everything at once.
The doctor sits back down near me, taking hold of my hand.
I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere.
I do as he asks and force myself to relax, let the pain of my grief subside. As I feel calmer, I try to make sense of everything he's told me, that I've been dreaming this whole time, that I haven't been at home watching my husband, my surviving child, that I've just been locked in my memories, reliving the past, imagining that what was happening was real when actually I've just been some kind of ghost in my own life. I haven't just walked into a living dream. I'm emerging from one. But even as my mind protests that it's crazy, that the doctor is wrong and doesn't know what he's talking about, tiny details click into place. The way I've been sitting in one room, but then seem to end up in another, without any memory of moving. The way I would think about a subject or a conversation, and then suddenly Dom and Lucy and Aiden would appear and start talking about it. School, the park, Aiden's swimming trophy. But I saw them, right next to me. I heard them.
As I say, our unconscious mind absorbs far more than we know. It's possible you overheard your family talking around you when they visited you in the ITU at the West Mid, the doctor says, leaning forward and resting his elbows on his knees.
Lucy and Dom in the kitchen. I close my eyes, remembering listening to them talk from my hiding place on the stairs.
Sorry.
I heard them, my husband and my best friend. But I thought they were at home. So was that real or a memory? I ask, shaking my head, struggling to grasp that I wasn't even there, that I was here the whole time.
Perhaps a bit of both. Maybe you heard them talking at your bedside after the surgery. Your brain then transplanted what it was hearing to a more familiar context, such as your kitchen table, he says with a quick smile. It would be logical.
Logical? It all sounds crazy to me.
Dreams can take us to the most unexpected places. The mind is incredibly powerful, the unconscious mind equally so. It processes thoughts and feelings without you even being aware of it, often contextualizing them in unexpected ways. You might, for instance, dream of running for a train. Perhaps that is an incident from your daily life. Or perhaps it is your brain's way of encapsulating tension you're experiencing, a feeling of stress, being unable to keep up.
But it was all so real, so ordinary. Just my everyday life, my family. Again, I have that sensation of having stepped out of a dream into a parallel universe, and the sensation is disorienting.
Nothing was different, peculiar, or unexpected.
No one ever looked at me or noticed me. My son has been ignoring me. He wasn't ignoring me. I wasn't even there, I realise. I had vanished completely. I feel more tears trickling out of the corners of my eyes, rolling towards my mouth. I taste saltiness, and it's the first physical sensation I can remember in a long time. No, that's not true. Lately, I've been becoming more aware of my bodily senses. I've been waking up, I realise. The doctor said my brain activity had become agitated because I was starting to remember more, I realise. As memories returned, my brain was kick-starting itself back to life, back to my family. Aiden, my darling boy, Mummy's here now. I close my eyes and think it through slowly, step by step, trying once again to fix the details in my mind. I have been in a coma, and my unconscious mind has incorporated all the noises and conversations happening around me into scenes from my own life. At the same time, conjuring up real memories and trying to process them, trying to make sense of what's happened to them. What has happened to me? You said... I clear my throat and try again. You said that I've been shot? I don't understand.
Your case notes indicate that your injuries were not insignificant,
he says in a quiet, steady voice, sitting back and looking around for his clipboard.
But as I say, my team and I are extremely pleased with your progress.
He reaches out and squeezes my hand as if in congratulation. But I've done nothing good. I deserve no praise. But there was only one gunshot. My head aches, partly with the shock at speaking the raw, violent word aloud, partly with panic. I feel frightened and confused as horrific, shadowy images suddenly rise up to surround me in the bright white room. I turn my face into the pillow, trying to hide from them, and also find some relief from the throbbing in my temples. When I open my eyes again, the doctor is still watching me.
One bullet is generally enough.
A dark eyebrow lifts quizzically. I remember clawing my way through the rose bushes, my hands tangling in my daughter's hair, my whole body soaked in her blood, so much blood. It was my blood too, I suddenly realise. Unless you're lucky, I say bitterly, wishing it was Annabelle lying here in this hospital bed, not me.
In surgical terms, there is indeed much to be thankful for. The fact that the bullet penetrated the very tip of your right frontal lobe towards the forehead meant that only minor clinical damage was caused. Your surgeon could explain this in more detail, but the essence of your good fortune is that the bullet passed through no vital brain tissue, nor any vascular structures. There was a perforating wound, of course, but that is healing nicely.
I was shot in the head, and I didn't die. My thoughts drift away from me like clouds.
It feels like a miracle, yes?
It feels wrong, unjust, I say forcefully. I deserved to be the one to die. It should have been me, I say, and my throat feels raw. My whole body aches as if crushed beneath a heavy weight. I close my eyes against a sudden image of Annabelle lying deathly still beneath the roses, white petals floating on a crimson pool.
There we must disagree. No crime deserves such retribution. And I'm sure you've committed no crime in any case. You're not under arrest, are you? You were brought here for recuperation, not punishment, he says gently.
But who? Why? The words stick in my dry throat,
and the doctor helps me to take more small sips of water. There I cannot help you, I'm afraid. Perhaps it's best you save those questions for the detective, yes? You should be here at some point tomorrow, or the day after. As he requested, we've kept him fully in touch with your progress. He stands up now and moves round to the other side of my bed, checking the monitors one last time. Try not to dwell on things too much till then, okay? There is a clipped edge to his voice now, the no-nonsense manner of a consultant in charge. I feel tiny hairs prickle in a shiver of relief up my arms. It makes me feel safe, and my mind relaxes. I want to sleep. I'm so very tired. I'll come back in a little while, he says, clicking his pen and tucking it in the breast pocket of his white coat. Your vital signs are much stronger this morning, but we still need to be cautious. There's no rush. Recovery takes as long as it takes. The most important thing is that you allow yourself to heal. Everything else must wait. There's time enough for more talking. For now, rest. Understand? He glides around me again like a velvet curtain, pausing only to readjust my pillows. I smell antiseptic on his hands, a tangy, acidic aroma I know I've smelled before. Was it his hands I remember stroking my hair? A touch so gentle. It can't have been my husband. And Dom has only visited me once, just one time in all these weeks. Why hasn't he come back yet? Has he abandoned me here? As the doctor closes the curtains, dims the lights, and shuts the door softly behind him, panic suddenly tingles through my body. I've been alone in the darkness. No, it wasn't dark, I think. It was blinding bright. I've been trapped in that bright dark for such a long time. But it's only now that I realise exactly how alone I was. How lonely and adrift, and how scared. I feel safe now, but only when I hear this doctor's voice next to me, anchoring me. Everything is so confusing. I have so many questions, but I don't even know where to start. I try to calm myself down by thinking through what I do know. I understand that the bullet that killed Annabelle must somehow have injured me too, and that I've been in a coma, and that Dom has been too distressed to visit me. I know that this doctor has been at my bedside for weeks, and that the bright light in my home was in fact the lamp angled over this bed, or perhaps the beam of the doctor's torch examining my eyes. That it was his needle flooding me with numbness, calming my panic when I became too distressed. I have been on a journey through my unconscious mind, and Professor Hernandez, along with his whiteboard, has been my silent companion. I thought his notes were my notes, and so they were, in a way. I understand that as I began to surface from my comatose state. My senses were alert to flashes of the outside world, and just as in dreams we incorporate a sudden noise or the voices of people around us, so too the hospital and everything around me became part of my inner world. I feel tearful with relief to know that I have finally left behind that cold, fractured place that was so dark, yet also blindingly bright. But I'm also afraid. Everything I thought I'd seen, all that I had unravelled about my life, my family, turns out to have been an illusion, a trick of my shattered mind. Which means that I may be recovering physically, but I'm still lost. In the bright dark, I believed I was beginning to piece together everything that led up to the morning of the twins' 10th birthday, the day I lost Annabelle. In the true light of day, I realised the picture is still just a handful of fragments. I cannot trust my own mind. So what or whom can I trust? As my mind and body finally surrender to exhaustion, I battle to hold on to one thought, repeating it over and over in my mind. I need to see my son.
End of disc 4. Disc 5.
24. Please try to contact my husband again. Did you call his mobile as well as the landline? I just want to see Aidan. I need to see my son. I know, I do understand. I'll try both his numbers again, I promise. Carol speaks patiently, even though I've asked her the same question, growing increasingly frantic 100 times already today. She fusses efficiently around my bed, encouraging me to eat a tiny bit of my early supper, before giving me one last sympathetic smile and bustling out of the room to continue her rounds. I know she thinks she's leaving me to rest, as Professor Hernandez instructed, but I'm not getting much sleep. I managed to nap fitfully during the day yesterday, my mind turning over my conversations with the doctor, but I lay awake most of the night. It's not the hospital environment that's bothering me, the glaring artificial light, the sporadic nocturnal activity and random sounds. They're all strangely familiar. My brain seems to recognize and accept them as normal. After all, as I finally reconciled myself to, it's been filtering them for 3 months. It's not the world around me, and it's not even the aches and pains of my body. It's just that I can't rest until I know what's happening with Dom and Aidan, where they are, how they are, what they're thinking, how they're coping without me, without Annabelle. It's all I care about. More than getting better, more than seeing the detective and finding out the answers to all my questions, I just want Aidan. I'm in a constant state of jittery panic, and Professor Hernandez has begun to anticipate my first question each time he enters my room. Each time he's simply shaken his head with a small frown. I can't tell if he's cross or apologetic. So serene and unflappable, his presence almost soporific. This morning I pressed him more urgently, waiting until he'd worked systematically through his tests and observations before telling him that if no one could bring my son to me, I would discharge myself and drag myself home on my hands and knees, if that's what it would take. Well, he said slowly, regarding me steadily, I think we'll give it a go unhooking you from these charmers this morning. He pointed at the machines with his ballpoint pen. Cut the electronic apron strings, as it were, and see how you fare. But I'd recommend at least a couple of physio sessions before you attempt to crawl back to London on your hands and knees. He smiled. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, though. We will keep trying your husband, Mrs. Castle, he said more seriously. I just don't understand why he hasn't come to see me yet. I let him help me sit up in bed so he could start carefully disconnecting wires and removing sensor pads. But even as I said the words, I realized I did know. Our daughter was dead. Dom blamed me for it, and he couldn't bear to see me. There could be no other explanation. I might have been scared of Dom, but he despised me, and he had absolutely no intention of coming to see me. The hospital could ring as many times as they liked. Dom wasn't coming back. I do recall he mentioned his work. Something about too many irons in the fire. But we've left several messages now, the doctor said, pausing to look at me. We've even written and emailed. Could he have... Maybe he's taken Aidan to stay somewhere else, or moved house, do you think? I asked, clinging to any shred of hope. No, of course not. What a stupid idea. He'd never do that. I said, talking more to myself than to the doctor, who carried on pushing buttons and taking notes, clicking, unclipping wires, lifting first my left arm, then my right. I felt like a child being dressed for their first day at school. I watched him blankly, conflicting thoughts chasing round my mind. Dom had moved house, unable to live any longer where Annabelle died, and he didn't know I was awake. Either that, or he'd abandoned me in disgust. We haven't received any notification of an alternative address, but look,
I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. Maybe he's gone away for a business trip or perhaps a short holiday to take a break from the stress and worry. I can't imagine he would stay away for no good reason.
He pressed his hand reassuringly on mine, saying he would be back again after he'd checked on his other patients. Selfishly, I wished there weren't any. From the second he left the room, I was anxious for him to return. I didn't want to be left alone with thoughts of exactly why Dom might have decided to abandon me and withhold our son. No good reason. There was one very good reason, I realised. Annabelle. And it was pure torture lying there alone, agonising over the thought that Dom might never come back. How would I ever get to see my son again? It's the only explanation that fits, I think now. I doubt very much that Dom's absence has anything to do with a holiday. He never takes time off work. 2 weeks in Cornwall each summer is the most he's ever agreed to, and even then he's always timed it around his clients' priorities and has remained glued to his phone the whole time we're away. He's always talked of finding a business partner to share the load, but he's rejected every potential candidate over the years as not up to his standards. No one ever lives up to his expectations. I guessed long ago that it's an issue of control, and that his parents' deaths probably hold the key to this. The suddenness, the randomness of their cancer. I suspect it left him desperate to retain more power, more control over his own destiny. I asked him about it once, annoyed that I was trying to psychoanalyze him, as he called it. His furious reaction taught me not to ask a second time. Is that what his silence is all about? He's demonstrating his power, control over me as a punishment for not saving Annabelle? I tried to tell myself I'm being paranoid. He was obviously traumatized by his first visit and can't face another. He was trying to shake me awake, the nurse said. He must have been so desperate, so worried, and concerned about inflicting the battered and bruised sight of me on our son, letting him see the scary machines, the wires all over my body. I need to get better fast. I need to get home and find out for myself. But the doctor was right. I'm not fit to go anywhere yet. So far, I've managed to take only a few short steps, with a great deal of help, across my room to the ensuite bathroom, and I feel constantly panicky and paranoid. In just this short space of time, I've become completely dependent on the doctor's presence, only feeling safe when he's at my side. Was I always this needy? I feel like I've woken up in a different body, like I'm having to get to know myself all over again. I've been asked what music I like to listen to, what food I like to eat. I have no idea. And I don't want to think about any of these things. There isn't room in my head. It was already overloaded with horror and grief at losing Annabelle, and now it's approaching bursting point, as I wonder if my husband has simply left me here to rot. Meanwhile, I'm still grappling to get my head around the fact that I've been asleep all these weeks, drifting backwards and forwards through my life in a dream state. In between my sporadic naps yesterday, Professor Hernandez sat by my side again, patiently explaining that the conversations and incidents I remembered in my coma most likely did actually take place in my past. My unconscious mind was just trying to process them. But how much was true, and how much was a distortion of the facts? I know he's right that we replay our waking lives in our dreams, but I also understand that our underlying worries colour them differently. I know, for instance, that Lucy really has spent hours at my kitchen table over the years, enjoying time with my family. But did she ever flirt with my husband? Or was it just that I always felt secretly jealous of their relationship, and in my unconscious, dreamlike state, that jealous insecurity tarnished my memories, my mind replaying them in such a way that I genuinely believed Lucy and Dom were in love? I want to know. I need to speak to Lucy as well as to Dom. But when I requested a phone to call my friend, her landline was disconnected and I kept getting a number not recognised message on her mobile. No Dom, no Lucy, no Aidan. I'm trying hard not to think the worst, that with me stuck here out of the way, they've seized their chance to be together. I force myself to banish images of the four of them, Dom, Lucy, Aidan and Jasper playing happy families without me. Professor Hernandez is right. There will be a perfectly reasonable explanation. I know Lucy has been looking to move out of her rented flat to somewhere bigger. Perhaps she's found somewhere and has finally moved. Perhaps she's changed her mobile number. Perhaps. All these questions with no answers are driving me crazy. But not as crazy as I feel at not being able to see Aidan. I just want to see my own son. Is that too much to ask? I announce to the empty room. The wind chimes jingle. I hear voices somewhere along the corridor outside my room and the revs of a car engine through the open window. Stare at the white walls and long to hold Aidan, hoping that he's safe, hasn't forgotten me, doesn't hate me. I thought I was at home with him and Dom, and that they were ignoring me because of what I've done, the terrible choice I made. Tolerating my presence but unable to bring themselves to talk to me. Only I wasn't really there, and my heart pounds faster as it suddenly occurs to me that maybe they don't know. It's possible, I suppose, that Dom doesn't. He wasn't there on the morning of the twins' birthday. He stormed out after our row and I haven't seen him since. But Aidan was right there next to me in the garden. What did he see? What did he hear? Who did this to Annabelle? To me? I lie back and stare at the ceiling, tussling with endless questions. I want to ask Professor Hernandez again, but he doesn't seem to know anything about my broader situation. He didn't admit me to hospital or operate on me. His responsibility is for my rehabilitation alone. And I get a terrible sinking feeling inside when I think of revealing my guilt to him. Coma may have changed me in some respects, but I haven't woken up with a conscience wiped clean. I long to talk about Annabelle, to tell the doctor how much I regret what has happened, how much I miss her. But I can't do so without explaining the choice I made, without confessing what a terrible mother I am. I betrayed my daughter. I let her down, and I hate myself for it. I deserve condemnation, but I'm not strong enough to bear it. Professor Hernandez's gentle understanding is all I have. He's my lifeline, the only person keeping me going, and I couldn't bear it if he too turned away from me in disgust. Then I really would have nothing and no one. So I remain lost, my thoughts whirling endlessly in circles, only two things completely clear in my mind: being ordered to choose between my children, and then crawling beneath the rose bushes, scrabbling through blood-soaked grass, desperately trying to reach Annabelle's body. They are the two terrible, absolute truths I can hold on to. But as for the rest... 25. Need some help? Oh, fine, I'm fine, but thank you, I say, and do my best impression of someone who can stand upright and walk in a straight line without bouncing off the walls. Carol returned after my supper with no further news of Dom, and seeing how upset I was, she suggested I have a go at a little walk along the corridor outside my room, just to the water cooler and back. Divert my mind and build up a bit of strength in my legs. The effort this required certainly proved distracting. It's taken me ages to shuffle only halfway, supported by the kindly nurse. Now she's left me to take an urgent phone call, and I'm stranded here, leaning heavily on the wall, gripping onto the handrail that runs along the middle of it, no doubt designed for situations like these. You don't look fine, if you don't mind me saying. You look knackered. Nice pyjamas, though. Navy polka dots are definitely your look.
I braced my shoulder more comfortably against the wall and turned to look in the direction of the voice. A young girl of maybe 16 or 17 is standing in the middle of the corridor, leaning on a stick, tapping one foot impatiently. She has long, dead straight, silky black hair that Annabel would have envied so badly. I look down at her feet and am amused to see giant fluffy bunny slippers. I prefer your look, I say, smiling at her. Mum's idea of fashion, she tells me, grinning back. Maybe I offended her in a past life, or this one, which is entirely probable, as I seem to spend most of my time offending someone. Talk too much, I know, I've been told. What can I say? I like chatting to people. Her voice is quick and loud. She has a strong accent that reminds me of Max's. She's from London too then, I think, wondering if she's still at school, wondering how Aidan is getting on at his school without Annabel. Well, speaking as a mother myself, I think your slippers are adorable, so don't shoot your mum just yet. Damn, bad choice of words, I think, and my knees almost give way. Are you okay? Seriously, you look like hell. Come here, let me give you a hand. You can have your pick, this one or this one. She holds out each hand in turn, swapping the stick from one hand to the other. This is my best one, though. She holds up her right hand. The bones were only slightly crushed in this arm, as opposed to mangled out of all recognition on the other side. Gosh, that sounds crap, but yeah, pretty much sums it up. Although, according to my consultant, it's a miracle I'm even alive. She imitates an accent and pulls a face. Even with the facial scarring, speech loss, one useless arm and a permanent limp. Ah, I hear the slurring in her voice now. I'm sorry to hear that, I say gently. You must be very brave to... Hang on a sec, is your consultant Professor Hernandez? I ask. The accent and the word miracle ringing bells. He pronounced exactly the same verdict on me. How many miracles can there be in this place? Hundreds, probably, I think, realising there must be lots of other consultants too. I haven't ventured further than my own room, so I don't have a sense of the wider hospital world. Yeah, Spanish dude. A voice that can send me to sleep in a second. She leans heavily on her stick again, trying to shift her weight from one leg to the other. I smile. How funny, we share the same doctor. It feels good to make a connection, however small, with another person. I've started to feel selfish, self-absorbed, wrapped up in my own pain and oblivious to others. Carol and the doctor devote all their energy to caring for me, yet I know next to nothing about them as people. Such self-absorption is unlike me, I think. Or is it? I'm not quite sure what sort of person I am anymore. I feel like I've left parts of myself behind in the bright dark. He's leaving soon, I heard. Going back to Spain. I reckon they should try to keep him. I'd have given up by now if it wasn't for him, she says, shifting her stick once more to the other hand. Oh, I'm sorry, I say, noticing that she seems in discomfort. Yes, shame, right? No, I didn't mean about Professor Hernandez, though that is a real shame. I meant I'm sorry for keeping you standing here talking. Shouldn't you be resting? Were you on your way somewhere? I rest a hand lightly on her arm, hoping it's not the one she mentioned as having been mangled. Ah, just enjoying an evening stroll. Scenic tour, innit? She winks. Very scenic, I say ironically, looking up and down the empty, windowless corridor. My name's Stash, by the way. She thrusts a tiny hand towards me. Interesting name. I'm Maddie. Pleased to meet you, Stash. I smile as we shake hands, but I'm feeling tired myself now, and I really just want to get back to my room. Check in with Carol, just in case it was Dom on the phone. This is Natasha, really, but my baby sister could only manage to say Stash, and it stuck. Mum says it suits me. Read into that what you will, she gabbles on. You got kids? The walls close in on me. The floor seems to shift and dip beneath my feet. I should have been prepared for this question. I should have had an answer ready. But I've been so deeply immersed in my own pain, I haven't given a thought to the curiosity of others. That's different too, I think.
wondering how else my personality might have changed. It's like I fell unconscious as one person and have woken up as another. But I'm still Aiden's mum. Nothing can change that. It hits me that I'll probably be asked about the twins as soon as I go home. There can't be many people in West London who haven't heard my story. But here at the hospital, miles away from Hampton, I felt anonymous. Just another patient recuperating after trauma. No one here knows anything about Annabelle. I can't bring myself to talk about her. The pain, the shame of her loss is far too raw. When the nurse has talked about her own 3 children, I've spoken only about Aiden. But I gave birth to twins. They are inseparable in my mind. I will never be able to think of one without the other. I read that people who have lost a limb sometimes feel like it continues to itch or ache, as though it's still attached to them. I still feel Annabelle. I still feel that 3-way knot of love and need that bonded the twins to me from the second they were born. The knot I tore apart, but which continues to wrap itself around me. I never want to be released from it. Suddenly, I can't hold it in. For 10 years, I've talked about my children almost non-stop. I want that time back. I want them back. I think agonizingly, trying to swallow over the lump in my throat. 2. I have 2, a boy and a girl, both 10. I blurt out, unable to resist indulging the pretense just for a moment. I can't bring myself to say that my daughter is dead. I don't want to admit it to the world and have to explain and watch this young girl's face crumple in shock and horror. There is something about her that reminds me a little of Annabelle, her pretty pixie-like face and her vivacity despite the awfulness of her injuries. I want to savour the reminder a little longer. I want to enjoy the twins' names on my lips just one more time. Annabelle and Aiden, I say softly, and my voice sounds thick and unrecognisable. Twins, hey, cool. Stash notices nothing wrong. My acting skills are clearly better than I'd realised. Outwardly, I must be giving the impression of being completely normal. How deceptive appearances can be, I think. Their friends think so. Twins always stand out, don't they? I say. Bet they love visiting you here, playing with all the machines, bugging the nurses. They're a riot, aren't they? She still doesn't bat an eyelid, completely oblivious to the emotions crashing through me. She just winks again and reaches into her fluffy pink dressing gown pocket to show me a glimpse of a gold packet. Scenic route, indeed. You're off to hang out with the secret smokers. Don't worry, I won't lecture you, I say, my heart still thumping in my chest as I realise I've spoken my daughter's name out loud. Oh, if you don't hold back on my account, lecture away. Everyone else does. I've memorised a whole list of stuff that's not good for me, although they probably should have stuck riding on the back of drunk boyfriend's motorcycle at the top. He was always telling me off for smoking too. But then, he got crushed by a lorry turning the wrong way off Chiswick roundabout. Feels kind of like my last connection with him, the smoking, so I'm not giving it up any time soon. Her shoulders dip and her long hair falls over her face. Oh, Stash, I'm so sorry, I say. I push myself off the wall and take a jerky step towards her. What a horrendous tragedy. Yeah, well, this place is full of them. I'm sure you've got your own story to tell, she says, wiping her eyes. I touch the tender wound still covered by a light bandage on the right side of my head. I feel so lucky to have escaped the lingering damage Stash is enduring. Professor Hernandez was right to call it a miracle. My thoughts come a little less fast now, and there are still gaping black holes in my memory. Can't remember if I prefer toast or cereal for breakfast, and whether I'm usually so grumpy in the mornings, or these mood swings are entirely new, or circumstantial. But I can't deny that the round-the-clock care I'm receiving is working wonders. I will never take my life for granted again, I think fiercely. Or my son's. Fancy one? Stash offers, breaking into my thoughts. She pulls the gold packet out of her pocket. Not for me, but thanks. I glance around protectively, wondering if Stash is about to get rumbled. There are no smoking signs everywhere. Wise woman, hope your kids don't either. Started when I was 10. Mum was always so high on coke she didn't notice. By the time she did, I was addicted, not to mention pregnant. She shoves the cigarette packet back in her pocket, but continues to fiddle with it. Pregnant? I say, genuinely shocked. Yeah, that baby sister I mentioned. Actually, my kid. Only we don't tell the neighbours on the estate. Mum is raising her. Cleaned up her act pretty fast once she realised I wasn't getting rid of it. A small, pointy chin juts out proudly, and she looks sideways at me, as if to judge my reaction. Good for her, and good for you, I say immediately. I mean that, from one mum to another. I rest a hand on her shoulder, and she tries to look tough, but I can see she's pleased. I have no doubt that it's been a tough ride for both Stash and her mum. Makes me appreciate my own home even more. I know Dom has always been ambitious for something bigger, better, more. But all I've ever wanted is for the four of us to be happy, healthy, and safe. Introduce me to your kids next time they're in, yeah? Stash says, her dark eyes lighting up at the thought. I'm a walking advert for all the things not to try as a teenager. One meeting with me, they'll be set on the straight and narrow for life. You'll be thanking me. Sure, I say faintly, glad that she's already shuffling away from me along the corridor, so that I don't have to explain that my daughter will never be able to visit me, and that my husband, for some unfathomable reason, seems to have vanished off the face of the earth, along with my best friend and my son. 26. Please, don't panic, Mrs. Castle. Everything is fine. It's Professor Hernandez. I feel a gentle hand on my shoulder as I wake with a start. What time is it? I open my eyes and peer groggily at him. I hadn't even realised I'd fallen asleep. Still early. Not much after 7. I'm sorry to wake you. You must have really tired yourself out going walkabouts last night. He smiles. You did very well, by the way. Excellent progress. My family? The doctor is always telling me to rest. He must have a good reason for waking me up, I think. My heart beating faster as I struggle to sit up in bed, wide awake now. We've managed to get hold of your husband. I thought you'd want to know immediately. He tells me, helping me to prop myself up against the pillows. I just spoke to him and he's setting off from London right now. Oh, thank God. And my son, he's coming alone, he told me, to avoid too much drama and distress. Oh, okay, I guess that's sensible. Thank you. A burning ache of disappointment tightens my chest. I have to force myself to breathe in, breathe out, in again. I can see Professor Hernandez is pleased to be able to give me some good news, so I try not to spoil it by letting my mood crash. He'll be here in a couple of hours, depending on traffic. A couple of hours? So soon? After all this time, it feels a bit strange, I say, but don't expand on my sudden rush of nerves when the doctor raises his eyebrows encouragingly at me. Instinctive, habitual loyalty to Dom makes me reluctant to admit that it's actually Aidan, not my husband, I'm desperate to see. It took a while for my brain to remember the tension in my marriage, but now those images have returned, they won't budge. I do want to see Dom, but I'm also scared of what I've remembered and of what he knows, or doesn't know. A good husband will understand that, is all the comment Professor Hernandez offers. A good husband would have visited before now, I snap. Sorry, I just can't believe I'm still not going to see Aidan. I desperately want to cry, but I don't want to have to explain my tears. And your daughter too, I imagine. Sorry? The deafening sound of my heartbeat roars in my ears, blood pulsing through me in a sudden hot rush. You have twins, yes? I've just come from another patient of mine who mentioned bumping into you on your walkabout yesterday. She's quite a talker and was beyond excited at the idea of twins.
told me off for not knowing anything about them. He chuckles. Although, come to think of it, I do recall you mentioning a daughter once. Or perhaps I've got that wrong, he says. And I feel guilty about the look of concern pinching his face as he watches the blood drain from mine. No, yes, it's just that... I'm so sorry. It's unprofessional of me to share personal information between patients. Please accept my apologies. And don't worry, I know the mother-daughter relationship can be very challenging. I'm not married myself, but Carol tells me often she has, how shall I put it, differences of opinion with her daughter. She finds it hard to talk about their relationship too, he says kindly. If only it were that simple, I say, sighing heavily, kicking myself now for having mentioned the twins to Stash. Well, how about this? He pulls up a chair. When your husband arrives, I could suggest we set up a Skype call. That way you get to see your children, and they'll get to see you and talk to you without ever setting foot inside this abominable place. He smiles, and I want to reach out and hug him for being such a genius. Well, now, that is a happy sight. He gestures at my face with his ever-present ballpoint pen, and I realise I'm smiling back at him. I'll have to explain to him about Annabelle later, I realise. I at least owe him that honesty, painful as it will be. But for now, the thought that I might soon be able to speak to Aidan has sent a thrill of excitement through me. I know it won't be an easy conversation. I know Aidan must be distressed and worried. My unconscious mind has been playing out exactly how sad he must be feeling. But there are two important differences now. I'm awake, and I've found my voice. I do believe that's the first time I've seen you smile, Mrs. Castle. Please, do me a favour and call me Madeline, I say on a sudden happy sigh. Or better still, Maddie, just so I know you're not cross with me. Maddie. He smiles again. And the only reason I'll be cross with you is if you don't rest and take proper care of yourself, he says, sounding amusingly like a bossy parent. As long as you do that, and if it makes you feel more comfortable, I'm happy to break a few rules and be on first-name terms. My name is Sebastian. Pleased to meet you, Maddie. He shakes my hand formally, and then, still smiling, he clicks his pen, picks up his clipboard, scribbling on it. I wonder if he's jotting down a reminder to use first names. I never met anyone so conscientious and methodical. He never stops making notes. I want to borrow them and crib up on my own life, which is still such a mystery to me. Oh no, that won't do at all. I can't call you by your first name. You're a doctor. I feel my jaw dropping and wonder if I look as horrified as I feel. Professor, actually. You wear a white coat and a stethoscope, I say pointedly. This is true. So if I call you Sebastian, that feels like we're equals, and I need you to be much more than that. More than me. Better than me. To make me better, I mean. It occurs to me that in normal life I would be waving my arms around, gesticulating an explanation. But I've still recovered only pieces of myself. My voice, physical sensations, some movement, and a handful of fractured memories. I'm not sure anything will make me completely whole again. Without Annabelle, that simply isn't possible. But the prospect of speaking to Aidan holds out at least some hope. I see. He cocks his head to one side. You do? He's clever, perhaps he does. I don't add that I need someone to look up to, someone I can rely on, and that it's frightening to feel so powerless and vulnerable, and I want someone to tell me everything's going to be all right. My parents were always elusive, and then they died, and it was Dom who became my rock, until trust crumbled beneath his aggression and my fear. I've surprised myself by being able to put my faith in another man at all, as I have in Professor Hernandez. And I'm not sure whether that's down to his fatherly manner or simply his official-looking doctor's name badge. Yes, I understand that calling me doctor and seeing me wear a white coat and stethoscope reinforces your confidence in my medical abilities. He gives a soft chuckle. I wish I'd known patient care would be that simple before my parents invested in 12 years training at Europe's finest med schools. I could have just visited a fancy dress shop and saved them a fortune. Huh, you're very funny for a professor, I tell him, pulling a wry smile. Nice try, but you can do better than that. I've seen you, he says, pointing to his own broad grin. It takes me a moment. Oh, you mean... It dawns on me that his teasing is just another way of assessing my mental faculties. My smile is a demonstration of fully functioning nerve processes. He's not trying to be funny. He's still monitoring my recovery. I'm not sure I have much to smile about right now, but I'll let you know when I feel one coming on, I tell him, feeling tired and anxious again. Tick it off your whiteboard anyway, though. Makes me feel better seeing ticks rather than a list of crosses. In that case, you get a gold star, Mrs. Castle. I glare at him. Maddie, he corrects after a long pause. Apologies, I forgot. And I thought I was the one with amnesia, I say, and smile. Aha, that's better. Now try to eat some of this delicious breakfast Carol has left for you, yes? A dark eyebrow quirks comically as he glances at the tray on my bedside table and then back at me. As for your amnesia, it may be temporary. We are only at the beginning of a long and winding road. Try not to worry about bridges yet to be crossed. One thing at a time, Maddie. Baby steps. 27. Mrs. Castle, Maddie? Carol pops her head round the door, and even though I know I'm supposed to be resting, I feel embarrassed that I haven't moved since the doctor left me. Lions have been a rare luxury since the twins were born. I feel bizarrely guilty that this motherly, uncomplaining woman is having to do so much for me. I watch gratefully as the nurse pulls open the curtains, letting in bright morning sunshine. I thank her as she helps me sit up in bed, propping the pillows comfortably behind my back. She smooths back my messy fringe and then tucks a stray strand of her own mousy grey hair back into its neat bun, tutting as she catches sight of my breakfast sitting untouched on my bedside table. Sorry, Carol, I apologise with a rueful smile. Not to worry, I'll bring you some toast and tea in a while. But first you have a visitor, she says, picking up the plastic tray and pulling a face at the bowl of congealed, soggy cereal. My heart leaps in trepidation before I realise it's too soon for Dom to have made it here. It's still early, and the doctor said it's a couple of hours' drive out of London. Detective Chief Inspector Watkins is here to see you. I'll show him in, shall I? She balances the tray on one rounded hip. Hesitating, she rests her other hand on the door handle. Her brown eyes widen. Doubt furrows her usually smooth, high forehead. Yes, thank you, I say, feeling a riptide of inexplicable guilt surge through me, followed by tingles of excitement that at last I'll be able to find out more facts, real information. Surely this detective can help me fill in the missing pieces, the last frustrating gaps in my memory. I take slow, deep breaths and try to stay calm as Carol props the door open, waving in a man wearing a long, dark wool coat. Automatically, I reach up to tighten my loose ponytail and sweep aside the fringe that now hangs over my eyes, tentatively touching the bandage on the right side of my head. I must look awful, and suddenly I feel self-conscious. Carol told me I will most likely always have a scar, and I'm glad. I want it to remind me. The feathery wisps of shaved hair on the right side of my head, beginning to grow back, also remind me of Aiden's shorn curls, and I wonder if his hair will be longer now. In my memories, it was sometimes shaved and sometimes wild and curly, which was baffling at first, but makes complete sense to me now I understand that I was recalling scattered snapshots from different moments in time. Good morning, Mrs. Castle. The detective brings with him sense of the outside world. Cocooned in this sterile environment, my senses are alert to subtle changes. The chill of autumn air that lingers on his coat, the oaky mustiness of a damp morning. I wonder if it's raining outside and glance down at his shoes. Immediately, I think of big black boots tearing up the lawn, a jagged scar rocking across the lush green grass towards the rose bushes. My heart beats faster at the memory, but I force it from my mind. I need to stay focused now. I need to gather hard facts and not get distracted by wayward emotions. I've never met a detective before, but if I'd ever thought about it, I suppose I would have imagined that all DCIs are stubble-chinned, leather jacket-wearing, wisecracking tough guys. I've obviously watched too many American crime TV programs over the twins' shoulders, because DCI Watkins's boots are the only point of similarity with this maverick image. There is nothing tough or scary about Detective Chief Inspector Watkins of the Metropolitan Police as he introduces himself. He may not be a tough guy, but I suddenly feel at a disadvantage, tucked up in my narrow, caged bed, unable simply to dash out of the room if the interrogation gets too intense. I don't even know whether I'm to be interviewed as a victim, witness, or suspect. The guilty mother who committed the vile crime of choosing one child over another. I study his clean-shaven face, looking for clues. His expression gives nothing away. He looks more like a well-dressed civil servant than a detective. Beneath his coat, he's wearing a dark suit and a grey tie. His black hair is greying at the temples, neatly cut. I wouldn't pick him out in a crowd. Welcome back to the world. Good to see you doing so well, DCI Watkins continues. He smiles, but I see his gaze flick over my face and body, assessing me. Thank you. I'm doing okay, I say, not returning his smile, bracing myself for whatever he has to tell me. I try really hard to wait patiently rather than rush in with questions. Who killed my daughter? The 4 words pulse like a heartbeat inside my chest. I'm almost too scared to ask them, frightened that the answer will flip my already spiraling world inside out and upside down once again. Good, that's good. I can see you're being very well taken care of. Excellent. He starts pacing round the room, looking at everything as if fascinated. Given that it's pretty much an oblong, white-painted box with a couple of armchairs and the odd landscape painting dotted here and there on the walls, it doesn't take long. Maybe hospitals make him anxious. The monitors and machines are rather intimidating, I suppose, although I'm used to them now. But I guess it's not every day he gets to meet a woman who's woken up from a coma after her family has been decimated by a crazed gunman. Maybe that explains his jittery demeanour. I wasn't sure we'd ever get to meet, he says at last, still pacing. Head injuries tend to be unpredictable, in my experience. I knew you'd be in good hands when you were brought here, though. Professor Hernandez has a reputation second to none. He saved many a lost cause, some who didn't deserve his expertise, I might add. But I usually find that justice has a way of prevailing. I certainly hope so, I say, wishing he'd get to the point. But I'm very glad indeed to have the chance to speak with you now, the detective adds politely. Just a formality, of course. A formality? That's right. A couple of questions we'd like to ask you before we officially close the case. The detective checks his notepad, and again I feel frustrated that he seems to be dragging his feet. Close the case? I don't understand. Why is it even still open? You've caught the gunman, haven't you? Haven't you? My heartbeat pounds in my ears as I finally manage to force out in a harsh whisper. Who is he? Ah, I see. He stops pacing and turns to look at me, his eyes narrowing. You don't know anything at all, do you? I've been in a coma, detective.
I'm really losing patience now. Of course. Then I'll just bring you up to speed, shall I? He says, lifting a pacifying hand as I sit bolt upright and start fidgeting irritably. My senior investigating officer, D.I. Nick Baxter, is outside in the relatives' room. He was the detective who conducted the initial investigation into the incident at your home. The incident? I close my eyes and remember clawing my way across the grass, the clammy soil, blood soaking through my clothes as I tried desperately to reach Annabelle. We didn't want to crowd you in, but he's here and you can speak with him afterwards if you like. Run through any details we don't cover here. He has all the forensic reports, of course, along with witness statements and Socko's analysis of the crime scene, so... Knock, knock. A petite, dark-haired young woman in a navy trouser suit pops her head around the door. Oh, at last, DCI Watkins says, sighing heavily, and I realise why he's been prevaricating. He was waiting for this woman, whoever she is. Timekeeping not on the curriculum at Cambridge? Sorry I'm late, boss. Got stuck in rush hour traffic, then missed my exit off the M25, and there was a pile-up on the A41. She apologises, shrugging her shoulders as she steps into the room and heads straight to my bedside, her movements brisk and bird-like. Immediately I realise the detective was right to leave his other colleague outside. I feel crowded with just 2 police officers filling the small room with their unfamiliar presence. I catch a faint whiff of cigarette smoke from the woman's jacket and wonder if that's the real reason she's late. I must remember to tell Professor Hernandez later that there's nothing wrong with my sense of smell, I think. Another thing he can tick off his list on the whiteboard. This is Michelle Simpson, the detective says, nodding curtly at his colleague. My family liaison officer. She's just joined the case, and I like her to be present in matters of domestic violence. Just joined the case? When it's about to be closed? Hi, please call me Michelle, and is it okay if I call you Maddie? She pulls up a chair and sits down close to my side. Any closer and she'd be in bed with me. Before we start, I just want you to know there's nothing to be frightened of anymore. You're safe now. So the gunman, you were saying, he's locked up, yes? I look back at DCI Watkins and realise I'm holding my breath. It's making me dizzy. I catch a fleeting glance between the detectives and wonder what it means. I'm so sorry for what you've been through, Michelle says softly, leaning even closer. But we're going to give you all the support you need. I'm here for you any time of the day or night. I want you to know that. Mrs. Castle, if I might jump in. DCI Watkins steps forward, huffing slightly and looking impatient. I can see why he needs Michelle to do the touchy-feely stuff. To answer your questions, no prosecutions have been brought and no further action is required at this time. No further action, I parrot. As the final key witness, though, we're keen to hear your version of events, see if we can't fill in some of the blanks. He continues. Blanks, I echo again. I thought I was the only one with blanks. I don't need more black holes. I want answers, not more questions. We're eager to gather whatever information you can share with us, no matter how trivial those details might seem. What you were doing on that day, what you were thinking, basically your recollections of that morning. It may be that we need to come back and speak to you another time. I don't want to tie you too much in one go. I'm aware this is all extremely difficult for you. He looks down at his notepad again. Yes, you can talk to us at any time, Michelle reiterates, flicking a glance at DCI Watkins that says, leave the sympathy to me. I'm sure it will take a while for everything to come back to you, your memory of that day and all the events leading up to my daughter's birthday, the morning of my twins' 10th birthday. I cut in impatiently. They may have come to me looking for answers, but I don't have any. That's their job, I think angrily. But you say no further action is required. I'm sorry, I don't understand. I shake my head as if that will make everything suddenly fall into place. That's correct. As far as the judicial process is concerned, no further action is required at this time. The detective is still studying his notepad, and I want to snatch it out of his hands and throw it across the room. No further action? You mean that the gunman... Isn't he in prison? I practically yell the word and wonder if Carol and the other nurses outside my door are hearing all this and looking at each other in shock and curiosity. Prison? No, Mrs. Castle, DCI Watkins says, finally looking up from his notepad. Your brother-in-law took the cowardly way out. He fired a second shot, turned the gun on himself. 28. DCI Watkins would indeed have made a perfect civil servant, or a politician, I think, my mind looping wildly. He has obviously perfected the art of delivering bad news while making it sound like he's just relaying a weather forecast. His voice is so devoid of emphasis that to begin with I can't quite grasp what he's telling me. Brother-in-law? My voice sounds breathy. I feel lightheaded. Max. Yes, Max Castle. The weapon was an ex-army issue firearm. According to your husband, it belonged to his late father. A Smith & Wesson Victory model, to be precise. 6-shot double-action military revolver with a 4-inch barrel. He checks his notepad yet again for confirmation. Misfired it the first time, but was bang on target with his second bullet. Clean shot to the head. He was pronounced dead at the scene, Maddie, Michelle says more gently, taking hold of my left hand and gently squeezing it. Max, I say faintly. Max. I'm sorry, this must be a dreadful shock, Michelle continues. But we were wondering, well, hoping you might be able to cast some light on what might have led Max to do this. We're still trying to get a handle on the immediate aftermath, too. Your husband helped us with our inquiries to begin with, but we have all we need from him now, and he's been in such a dreadful state. My husband? Yes, Dominic Castle, your husband. She's still holding my hand and lifts it slightly, as if to show me the indentation where my platinum wedding band used to be. Did I take it off weeks ago, I wonder? Or is Professor Hernandez keeping it safe for me until I'm well enough to go home? I become fixated on the whereabouts of my wedding ring rather than thinking about the implications of what they've just told me. I think we can assume Mrs. Castle has no memory or knowledge of events subsequent to being shot in the head, Michelle, the detective says wryly. Yes, of course, sorry. I just meant to say that if there's anything from before then, anything she might be able to tell us about... She breaks off, blushing. Dominic, your husband, DCI Watkins goes on, cutting across her, returned home from the golf club to discover the crime scene shortly after the occurrence of the shooting. He was the one who placed the emergency call, and I think it's fair to say he was in an extremely distressed state. And my understanding from colleagues, he dips his head at Michelle in acknowledgement, is that he has remained so. You could say he's a broken man, Michelle chips in. He was frantic with worry for you, and then what with the shock of it being his brother. His brother did this? Max? I repeat in a stunned daze. My eyes glaze over as I think back to that day, trying to recall any signs that it was Max beneath the army fatigues, the balaclava. The shock is devastating, although a voice inside my head reminds me that I had wondered about Max, back in the bright dark, before I woke up and realized that I might have been dreaming, but my nightmare was only just beginning. There must be some mistake, I say, even while acknowledging it's unlikely to be a case of mistaken identity if they found Max lying shot in our back garden. A shiver runs up my spine as phrases like dental records and blood groups float across my memory. There is a metallic taste in my mouth, and I reach blindly for the glass of water on my bedside table, then hold it in front of me, forgetting to drink it. Max, the twins' big, loud, quick-talking, crazy uncle. It's not that the idea hasn't crossed my mind before. It's just that the reality of the confirmation is so catastrophic. Because if he shot Annabelle, the gun misfiring, as the detective said, so the bullet hit me too, that surely means Max's guilt goes even deeper than the police know. I remember my fierce conviction that the man who murdered Annabelle must also have been the one grooming her, killing her to ensure her silence. It still seems the most logical explanation, but in the cold light of day, neither crime seems to fit with the Max I knew. The detective seems certain, though. Max fired the fatal shot and then turned the gun on himself, which means I need to accept the terrible likelihood that Dom's brother, the man I willingly welcomed into our home to play with and care for my children, was also a paedophile. The word sends shudders of anger and revulsion through me, and I become aware that tears are running down my face when I see Michelle reach for the tissues on my bedside table. She hands one to me, but then noticing how tightly my white-knuckled fingers are still clasping the glass of water, she leans over instead and dabs gently at my cheeks. But if Max was the gunman, does that also mean... I break off, my mind a tornado of confusion as I try to grasp this repellent scenario. I remember the way Annabelle had started to avoid taking lifts from Uncle Max, and how upset she was when he, not her dad, came to watch her in the drama club show. I remember her complaining that he was always at our house and hiding the playing cards so he couldn't suggest yet another game of poker with her. But they were such small, innocent, childish things. Were they really indicators of something far more toxic? I open my mouth to voice the question, but then I look at the machines next to my bed, the whiteboard at the end of the room, and I hesitate. I'm no longer certain how much I can trust my own memories. I thought I was awake, watching my son and husband struggle with their grief, yet all the time I was here, unconscious. I was wrong about that. What if I was also completely wrong to believe that Annabelle's stalker and her killer were one and the same? I think of Dom, a broken man. He would never recover from the shame of such a revelation. His brother a paedophile, our daughter the object of Max's perverted desires. I think of Annabelle lying dead and cold, murdered by her uncle. Nothing will bring her back. Slandering Max won't help her now, no matter how much I loathe him and want his name to be publicly denounced for the evil crime he's committed. No, I can't speculate about such a terrible thing without being more certain. But if it wasn't Max grooming Annabelle, who was it? And if Max's intention wasn't to silence her, why else would he want to kill my daughter? Was it all just about punishing me, forcing me to choose? If so, what possible reason could my brother-in-law have had for bearing such malevolence towards me? I was never anything but kind to him. Too kind in Dom's eyes. Nothing adds up. The detectives have presented me with the missing pieces of information I craved, but I still can't shape them into a meaningful picture. It must be a mistake, I repeat. Surely Max... My mind freezes. My voice dies. I sink back against the pillows and slide into emotional shutdown. There's no mistake, I'm sorry, the detective adds, when I finally manage to meet his eyes. But you were about to say something else. Can you remember? He prompts, pen poised over his notepad. Do you have any idea why your brother-in-law might have done this? DCI Watkins' steady gaze locks with mine. I have a sense he's waiting for something specific from me. But what? I'm not the one on trial here. Am I?
As I said, no further action is required, he continues, so effectively it's a moot point. Max is dead and the weapon was found in his hand. Your husband is the only other witness to the aftermath and he has an alibi at Fulwell Golf Club. No one else saw anything. He flips his notebook shut as if the matter is settled.
Run. Hide. Don't look back.
It isn't unusual for the perpetrator of a crime to be so close to the victim's family, of course, DCI Watkins says, almost conversationally.
They're always right under your nose.
But we'd still like to pull together as complete a picture as possible. Anything you can remember about Max Castle that might give us an insight into his state of mind, his attitude towards your family, would be very helpful. He checks his watch and stands up, clearly impatient to leave now he's not getting anything useful from me. Michelle?
I'll leave all our cards with the nurse in case you think of anything,
Michelle says, casting me one last sympathetic smile before she hurries out after her boss, patting her jacket pockets. I wonder if she's looking for her business card or her cigarettes. As the door closes behind them, I feel a surge of fear so powerful I'm convinced I'm going to black out. I think of Dom returning to our home after our terrible row that morning, only to find that his whole world had been blown apart. Our son traumatized, his precious girl slaughtered, his wife accidentally shot, and his brother dead. Murderer. The detective has at last given me a name, but he said nothing about me having been forced to choose. He made no mention of Aidan saying what his mummy did. No one else saw. No one knows. My heart beats faster and my gut clenches in horror as realization hits me. I'm going to have to tell Dom that although, for some reason I cannot begin to grasp, his brother pulled the trigger, it's as much my fault that Annabelle is dead, that I chose her. 29. The hand on my forehead is gentle, reassuring, lightly brushing to and fro before trailing down to my chin. I hear the wind chimes and think of home, sighing as I turn my face into the palm now cupping my cheek. It feels rough, warm. I frown. The doctor's hands are smooth, cool. They smell of antiseptic. I smell citrus cologne, and then suddenly I can't breathe. My throat closing up as my nostrils begin to burn, and I gag against the hand, smothering my mouth, forcing my tongue back down my throat until I start to suffocate. My chest feels like it's being compressed under a heavy weight. I'm drowning. I'm going to pass out.
Stop! Help! Please!
The strained, muffled sound of my voice is shocking. Even now, on my 4th day awake, I can't get used to being able to speak, to the idea that others will hear me and respond. Maddie, what is it? What's wrong? I open my eyes to see my husband perched on the edge of the chair next to my bed, where the family liaison officer was sitting, surely only moments ago. He leaps to his feet, rushing to my side.
Dom,
I croak breathlessly. Then in the next breath,
Aidan?
I look frantically round the room. It's just me, sweetheart. Aidan's fine. It's you I'm worried about. Get me a fright there, tossing and turning like you were trying to escape the hounds of hell. Must have been having a nightmare, eh? Last time I saw you, it was like you were in a deep freeze. Now you look... Are you okay? He asks anxiously, his face close to mine, his blue eyes wide and fearful. I blink rapidly, battling confusion and panic.
You're really here? Where have you been? I ask frantically. The police?
Yeah, I know. I saw them drive off as I was coming in. So you've heard the grisly truth. Rubs a hand over his face. His voice is a flat line.
I can't believe it, Dom. I just can't believe that...
I shake my head, feeling disoriented and tearful. A tight ball of stress seems to be lodged in my chest, constricting my breathing. I must have crashed out after the detectives left. Stress exhausts me, as the doctor warned me it would. But sleep hasn't lessened any of the shock, and I've woken up feeling like the world has tilted sharply on its axis. Seriously, don't even mention that man's name to me. He straightens up and turns away from me. I can't. I'm sorry I haven't come before now. I've been.
No, I'm sorry,
I say, and tears slide down my face, and it feels like they'll never stop. All my fear of Dom, my anger towards him for not being here, disintegrates beneath the bombshell of Max's guilt. Hey, don't cry. It's okay. It's not your fault, Dom says in a soothing voice, turning again to crouch at my bedside, taking hold of my hand. All my life he's been a thorn in my side. I just didn't have a clue he was capable of being such a monster. He's always tried to take everything off me. Jealousy, entitlement, who knows? You're the one with the psychology degree, you tell me. The big brother who felt he deserved it all, including my family. And if he couldn't have it, he was going to destroy it. Destroy me. His face is gaunt and his eyes are shadowed.
I know. I can hardly believe it. It's impossible to take in,
I say, squeezing his hand.
But I didn't mean... I wanted to say that I'm sorry for...
Hush, sweetheart. I'm here now. He cuts in, and he leans over and scoops his hands beneath my shoulders, crushing me to him so I feel the warmth of his strong chest and the smoothness of his freshly shaven jaw. I try to inhale without him realizing that I'm sniffing his aftershave to see if it's the same unfamiliar citrus smell that woke me from my dream. But my face is squashed so tightly against his cheek that I can't be sure. I can feel my body starting to tremble at the shock of being this close to him again, after all this time. It hits me with force that I'm alone with my husband for the first time, not only since I emerged from my coma, but also since our violent row on the morning of the twins' birthday. I thought I'd been right next to him, watching him for 3 months, but it was only from within the confines of my unconscious mind. So good to have you back, babe. I thought you were completely gone. His gentleness puzzles me, contradicting everything I expected of him. I've been expecting anger, blame, and harsh words. I thought his first visit to me would be full of recrimination and accusing questions. Why did I fight with him and make him storm out the house, leaving his family unprotected? Why did I let someone murder our daughter instead of throwing myself in front of her, giving my life to save hers? Instead, he is conciliatory, concerned. But something feels odd. Dom has always been so highly charged, brash and quick to fly off the handle. He's a high achiever and works tirelessly to keep himself fit. He has no patience for weakness and has always been intolerant of sickness. I was the one to nurse the twins through chickenpox, while Dom was irritated by their whininess. On the few occasions I've been poorly myself, he's given me a wide berth, allowing Lucy to take over and keep me stocked up on hot lemon drinks and cool, clean sheets. I'm struggling to recognize this man who is being so nice to me. He has the same handsome face, the same stylish clothes, yet something doesn't fit. Perhaps it's because I've been remembering him from all the different stages of our relationship, from our first date to our final row. Now I'm firmly back in the present day, I can't quite get a handle on where we sit between those two extremes. The last thing I remember is Dom's hammer punch to my face before he slammed furiously out of the house, and since then our lives have been ripped apart. No matter how hard he's trying to act like everything is normal, I simply can't pretend that it didn't happen. I take a deep breath as he moves to sit back in his chair. I sit up straight and decide it's time to be brave. Dom, I need to ask you something. Of course, anything. His attentiveness surprises me. I can't remember the last time Dom really listened to me. But he seems to be all ears now. There's nothing like a bullet in the head to finally get someone's attention. My head is buzzing with so many things, but it's Annabelle's diary I keep coming back to, kicking myself for not mentioning it to DCI Watkins. It was such a shock hearing about Max, though. My head was all over the place. But I realised that I should have told the detective about the things my daughter wrote. I can't let her death be shrouded in mystery. She died in violence, but she deserves to rest in peace. I must get in touch with them. I must remember to ask Carol for their business cards. I need to give the police every bit of information I can, I decide. I'm tired of secrets. They eroded our marriage, our family, and I won't live with them anymore. Sweetheart, Dom says, sitting patiently, watching as I work through my panicky thoughts, unable to find the right words or even know where to start. Max is gone. You're out of your coma. We need to get our family back on track, eh? Let's not agonise about the whys and wherefores. It's pointless. Dead men tell no tales, eh? Leave the detectives to do their stuff. The case has been closed, and we just need to concentrate on getting you well and bringing you home. He stands up and leans over to give me another tight squeeze before planting a kiss on my head. I flinch, and he apologises. Sorry, did that hurt? I forget my own strength sometimes. But it wasn't the pain that made me flinch. It was memories. Those last terrible 9 months or more. All these weeks I've been locked inside my head, remembering hostile silence, violent rows. They were real memories, I know they were. Dom may not be a killer, as I once feared while tunnelling through my unconscious mind, but I was afraid of him. And I'm not sure we have it in us to be one of those heroic couples that turn to each other in grief, supporting each other through hard times. We've experienced too many hard times already, and they tore us apart. I remember the 3 train tickets. I remember my packed suitcase. Does Dom know about them? I pushed gently at his chest, urging him to take a step back. Eventually, he sits down again, and I flick my ponytail over my shoulder and look him straight in the eye, steeling myself to ask him the question I know will crack things open to reveal what's really left between us. Dom, was I leaving you? I say quietly. Were you what? What are you talking about? He's out of his seat again, sitting down abruptly on the edge of the bed. Automatically, I lie back, my shoulders pressing into the pillows, my hands folded protectively across my chest. Dom rests one big hand on top of them, bearing down so firmly that I can feel my own heart pounding. It's just that I remembered something while I was sleeping. I clench my fists, digging my fingernails into my palms to help me hold my nerve. You weren't sleeping. You were at death's door. I'm not a doctor, and I'm sure a million things ran through your head, but I bet most of it was a load of jumbled rubbish. I mean, you took a bullet to the head. You can't possibly... I remembered that I packed a case, Dom, and hidden my photo inside it. I say, trying to keep my voice steady. I know that I don't need to explain which photo, or its significance. Dom will know. His hand is pressing down harder on mine now. I try not to show any reaction, but I can feel the weight of it beginning to constrict my chest. And I wonder if he's aware that he's hurting me again. So, we've been talking about taking the kids away for a weekend. I guess you got a bit ahead of yourself, that's all. When do you ever take time off, apart from our summer holiday? And we're practically broke, you said so yourself. I do remember that much. I remember us having a massive fight about it on the twins' birthday. I grit my teeth against the pain of that memory. Okay, no need to remind me. To be frank, I'm not sure this is the time or the place to be dragging up old rows. He releases my hands and turns away from me sharply, leaning forward so that his elbows rest on his knees. Sorry, I realise immediately that I've made a mistake. I've said the wrong thing. I shouldn't have brought up the subjects of work and money. There were such bones of contention between us. In any case, we're out of the woods now. I've taken on a major new client and had a good chat with the bank manager yesterday. It's been a hell of a slog, and I won't deny things got close to the bone, but I've pulled through. We're not going to lose the house. I'm not going bust. It's all going to be absolutely fine. He stands up and begins pacing up and down the small room, and the scrape of his shoes on the wood floor makes me think of Professor Hernandez's pen scribbling on the whiteboard. I glance towards it and see that it's been wiped clean. Does that mean I'm about to be discharged and sent home now that Dom's here? The thought makes butterflies dive bomb in my stomach. That's good, I say, falling into old habits with surprising ease. I know I need to placate him before the short fuse of his temper catches light. But Dom remains unexpectedly calm. Yeah, it is. So let's stop raking up the past, eh? We got to think of the future now. We've lost enough, haven't we? He stops pacing and turns to look at me, and his blue eyes are clouded with grief. It hurts to look at them. He's right. We have lost far too much. I'm not sure it's humanly possible to survive more. But we can't move forward with lies between us, I think resolutely. If there is any chance at all of us salvaging our marriage and getting through this together, I have to tell Dom the truth, and I have to know the truth from him. I found train tickets in my suitcase, I say, more firmly this time. But only 3, for 2 children, and just 1 adult. Yeah, fuck. He sinks back into the armchair as if his legs have suddenly given way, and I'm astonished to see his eyes fill with tears. You knew. You did know I was leaving you, I say, watching him, hardly able to believe what I'm seeing. Dom never cries. He really has changed. I knew, he admits, but it was all my fault. You have nothing to feel bad about. I was having such a shitty run of bad luck. I knew I was turning into a complete stress head. I lost perspective, I can see that now. I just wanted to give you all the best of everything. Honestly, I don't blame you for finding another guy's shoulder to cry on. He rubs his palms across his face as he spills out his apology and then lets his head sink into his big hands. A shoulder to what? A pulse throbs heavily at my temple in shock. I clutch the neckline of my pyjamas, pulling the soft material up to my chin as I slide down into the bed. I want to bury myself beneath the sheets as the implication of Dom's words sinks in. I can't believe it. In all the hours, days, weeks and months of imagining and reimagining our life together, I have never, not one single time, conjured up the thought of another man. I've remembered my early crush on Shay, but apart from my old university lecturer, no other man has ever entered my thoughts. Dom doesn't look up, starts sobbing in earnest now, his broad shoulders shaking. Michelle's words come back to me about my husband being a broken man. Please talk to me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I've hurt you so much. I don't remember any of it. Packing the bag, buying the tickets. I don't remember turning to anyone. I don't remember any other man. Shame cascades through me, chipping away more and more pieces of my self-respect. I know I was unhappy with Dom. I won't deny that. I know now that I wanted to leave him, but I'm shocked to the core to hear him suggest that I was being unfaithful. Can things get any worse? Not just any man, Maddie. You were seeing Max.
End of Disc 5. Disc 6.
30. His low, anguished voice is like a punch to my stomach, and my heart starts beating so fast I feel like it's going to burst. I hear a shrill alarm and feel another flash of recognition. I'd thought that harsh sound was our front doorbell, but it's vibrating from the machine at my side. I stare at the buzzing monitor, one more reminder of how the sounds and smells around me infiltrated the bright, dark, subliminal underworld of my coma. My panic attack has obviously set my pulse soaring. I'd forgotten Carol hooks me up to this machine for a few minutes each day to monitor any daily change in my heart rate. She must have connected the wire while I slept. The thin wire feels like the only thing tethering me to this life, stopping me from giving up entirely on this painful earthly existence and floating up into the clouds. If only, I think, feeling my last hope of redemption evaporate beneath the heat of Dom's scorn. I watch as my husband retreats to the corner of the room like a wounded dog, but before I can appeal to him, Professor Hernandez is at my bedside.
Try to stay calm, Maddie. Don't want you tripping up this close to the finishing tape.
He smiles reassuringly, but I've learned that the doctor has a remarkable ability to look serene while his brain is working at 100 miles per hour. Even as he looks so utterly calm, I know he's assessing every flicker of response in my physical and mental capacities. Am I going to win the race then? I ask him wearily.
You're already a winner. You're alive,
he tells me quietly, his face close to mine as he straightens my pillows and makes me comfortable. I'm not sure I deserve any medals, though, I say sadly. In fact, I think I'm due to be disqualified in disgrace. I can see Dom craning his head, trying to hear our murmured words.
Your wife needs to remain as calm as possible, Mr. Castle,
the doctor instructs as he turns to look at Dom. Professor Hernandez, you're needed. Carol pushes the door ajar and pops her head round it with an anxious frown.
I'll be there in a moment.
He doesn't move. I think it's urgent, she persists. I've got the psych team on the phone.
Very well. Remember, peace and rest. No stress.
He looks steadfastly at Dom, still making no move towards the door. And I wonder why the doctor, always so confident, is hesitating.
Of course,
Dom says smoothly, reaching out to shake Professor Hernandez's hand, and I see the doctor glance over his shoulder as he closes the door behind him. Immediately, Dom comes to sit on the bed and takes hold of my hand. I don't resist. We've been through so much during our 10 years of marriage. Maybe there have been as many lows as highs, but I don't have the heart for any more battles. Annabelle's death was hard enough to bear in the depths of my unconscious mind. In the cold, harsh light of day, it's like the pain is stripping the flesh from my bones. All I really have left of her is Aiden, her twin. I want to hold him close and never let him go, as I should never have let my daughter go. But I can't do it alone. I have to get better, get out of this hospital and home to my son. Whatever doubts I had about Dom, I need to trust him now, and pray that he will give me a second chance this time. I don't remember wanting to be with Max. I don't remember so much of what's happened. But if you tell me that's the case, I believe you, and I'm sorry. I squeeze his fingers, feeling tears prick my eyes, and I don't flinch when he closes his big hands around mine.
I forgive you. Thousands wouldn't,
he adds with a quirk of a smile. I'll make it up to you, somehow.
I'm sure you will.
He gives my hand another squeeze, and I notice that his wedding band is missing. Your ring.
Just been cleaned, don't panic.
I seem to have lost mine. I glance towards my bedside table as if expecting it to suddenly materialize there.
Been cleaned too.
It is? But how?
Maybe this year we'll celebrate our wedding anniversary properly. When you're better, of course. All the painkillers you're on. Not sure champagne is such a good idea right now.
He offers a lopsided smile, but I feel sick as the mention of champagne reminds me of the conversation with Max that evening in our kitchen, and of yet another row after Dom did indeed meet Lucy and Jasper at the champagne bar the following morning, as I'd worried might happen. I swallow hard as I suddenly remember, though, that the scene I replayed in my unconscious mind was, in fact, only half the story. Lucy brought a bottle of Cristal to our Sunday lunch that weekend, handing it to me with a big grin and saying it was a surprise late birthday gift. She'd already given me a present, but felt I deserved an extra treat. She just needed help picking out the best vintage and knew Dom was the man for the job. I recall this now. I just can't decide whether or not it was the truth. And I'm not certain whether Dom had simply been keeping a secret from my friend, or if he'd wanted to needle me with the paranoia he knew I'd feel. As more pieces of my memory return, I wonder what other truths I'll unearth, how many more tricks I'll discover that my brain has played on me. Dad's usually the one who plays tricks. I remember Annabelle saying that to me on our day trip to Brighton. I still have no idea what we were doing there, why I'd bought those train tickets. Perhaps it doesn't matter anymore. As soon as I'm better, I'll be going home, to my son, and I'm going to bathe him in all the love I know I felt for his sister too. I won't ever forget that. I won't ever forget her. I'm sure half a glass won't hurt, I say, trying a smile. And I'm sure I can lay my hands on a punnet of fresh strawberries somewhere. Dom grins. I'll even give you a back rub if you like. With a cuppa afterwards. I force myself into the spirit at the moment. Dom looks happy. I've woken up. Aidan is safe at home. Annabelle, my darling girl, I miss you so. But of course, whatever you want. Thank you for standing by me when I really don't deserve. I turn my face into the pillow, but I can't hide the sob that racks through my chest. Hey, come on now, what's all this? Everything's going to be okay. I'm here, Dom says, slipping a hand beneath my cheek and turning my face to look at him. His eyes are so bright, I almost expect to see sparks shooting from them. I'm just so sorry about Max, about everything. I need to tell him. I just can't find the words, can't catch my breath. Forget about Max. You're all mine, Maddie, and I'll never, ever let you go. Oh, Dom, he said that to me once before, remember? I say. He loves me. He'll forgive me for choosing our daughter. Course I do. I never forget anything. Not one single little thing. He punctuates each word with a tiny kiss on the tip of each finger of my left hand in turn. Just me that has trouble remembering then, I say, reaching up hesitantly to stroke his cheek with my other hand. I really can't remember. I can't believe I ever thought of Max in that way. I mean, he was your brother. I close my eyes in shame. Sure. Well, he demonstrated exactly what little value he placed on family. I mean, for God's sake, he got me to clean and repair that gun. He shakes his head in disbelief. No, he did. The idea is so horrendous I can hardly believe it. I got a few bits and pieces from Mum after she died, her jewellery and things. But that gun was the only personal possession Max inherited from our dad. That and his old army stuff. The fatigues he wore that morning, I say, pressing a hand to my quivering mouth as I remember his bulky form silhouetted in our front door. Quite. Anyway, Dad always talked a lot about his soldier days. The gun had a kind of bizarre sentimentality for Max, I guess. But if I'd thought for just 1 second that he would ever dream of firing it... He rubs his hands tiredly over his face. I thought he just wanted to polish up a family memento. More fool me. You're not the fool. He was the... I can't bring myself to say what I think of Max. He obviously wasn't the man I thought he was, I say hoarsely, almost choking on the understatement. I can't believe I ever considered...
We really don't have to talk about this now, Dom says, smoothing my too long fringe back from my face, his fingertips trailing down my hollowed cheeks, stroking my neck.
Did you tell DCI Watkins about me and Max? I ask, wondering if that's why the detective seemed to be expecting something from me. Perhaps he was waiting for me to confess my infidelity. It would certainly have provided some kind of clue as to Max's motives for wanting to punish me. Perhaps things had turned sour between us and I jilted him.
No, of course not.
His big hands circle my collarbone, pressing down lightly. I feel uncomfortable, but tell myself I need to let my husband get close to me again. I can't flinch at every touch. I think we should tell him, and there are other things I need to...
Shh, don't talk. Just rest some more.
But why didn't I go through with it? I say, still puzzling over the very idea that I could have planned to run away with my blunt, quirky brother-in-law. He pushes a finger against my lips.
I guess you just love me more than you realise.
Yeah, I say, and it seems to make sense. Maybe, too, I'd realised I couldn't take the twins away from their father, no matter how unhappy I was. Perhaps, despite everything, I'd decided to give our marriage another go, especially after reading Annabelle's diary. Maybe the shock of her words made me scared to leave our home. Maybe I just wanted to keep her safe. The dreadful irony of it makes my head swim.
No doubt about it. We're a team. We've always been a team. Max couldn't compete with that. He never stood a chance of stealing you from me.
And do you think that's why he... A penny suddenly drops. Do you think he was angry with me for backing out? I say faintly.
Yeah, I do. I saw him the night before the twins' birthday. Poured whiskey down him in the Bell Inn. Listened to all his crap. He wasn't happy, that's for sure. In fact, he was furious.
I tried to picture Max furious, his big body fired up with jealous rage. But whenever I think of him, I only see his clever, bright-eyed, almost mischievous expression as he lay stretched out on our living room floor playing video games with the kids. I can't picture him as my lover. I can't picture him with a balaclava over his head and a gun in his hand.
And you were angry with him,
he continues. Me? Angry with Max?
Oh, you know, he'd been coming round to our house so much. Every time I put my key in the door, he was there. I guess that accounts for how you came to cry on his shoulder in the first place. I was always working, and Max played on that. But then it got too much. He got too close, too intense.
I wanted him to back off a bit, and he refused, and I was angry with him for that. I say, thinking out loud, trying to reconnect with that feeling, turning my thoughts inwards, wondering why still nothing is falling into place. I don't remember turning to Max. I don't remember turning against him.
Exactly. You never seriously wanted to leave me. Certainly not for Max. He all but spits out his name. You just wanted to make a point. I should have paid you more attention, I get that. It's unfortunate you chose my brother, but that's life. I can deal with it. I've got broad enough shoulders.
So did Max, I think. Tall, broad-shouldered, a giant blotting out the summer's day as he came to our home on the morning of the twins' birthday, determined to get revenge, to punish me for changing my mind about leaving Dom to be with him. It might be Uncle Max. He said he had an extra special surprise for us. I'd invited him to help us set up garden games for after the pool party, but Annabelle was already half expecting him, I remember. Had Max hinted at something? Had he been sitting at home, his anger and frustration building, ready to be released on the day I'd planned to run away with him? The tickets were for that date, but I'd changed my mind, and he snapped. Only Annabelle opened the front door. My darling daughter stepped first into the firing line. How could he? Max had always doted on her, wistful eyes watching her whirl through life like a butterfly. I remember the joy he took in her, in both the twins, the endless gifts, games. Buying their silence, comes the thought. Did Hayden know? Annabel made no mention in her diary of confiding in her twin. And then there was Annabel's diary, Dom adds, as if reading my mind. I think I'm going to be sick, I say, clasping both hands to my mouth. I wait for Dom to offer me some water, but he doesn't move, and I press my head back into the pillows, closing my eyes, waiting for the world to stop spinning. I know I was rough with you that morning, sweetheart. It was such a shock, the things you told me Annabel wrote. I just flipped, I guess. His big hands run through his hair, ruffling his usually immaculate style. I just can't believe Max could... I feel so dreadful, so ashamed that I didn't know, that I didn't do anything. More than that I've been planning to run away with... We all make mistakes. You've definitely used up one of your 9 lives, though. But I can't return Dom's rueful smile. I bite my lip to stop a rush of tears as the final piece of the jigsaw falls into place, completing a dark, shameful picture. When things had seemed beyond repair with Dom, I turned to his brother for sanctuary. But he'd come on too strong, and I asked him to give me some space. Then I found Annabel's diary, and my world imploded, leaving me frightened to walk away from everything I knew to step into the unknown with Max. He felt rejected. I'd made him feel worthless. And I was also denying him unfettered access to what he wanted most of all, Annabel. Max wanted payback, and I see now that Annabel's name was always on that bullet. He always intended to kill her, to prevent her from telling tales on him, revealing his sordid secret. But he wanted to make me suffer first by forcing me to make the worst choice a mother can ever face. He took a gamble, but to my shame, I simply handed Annabel to him on a plate. I chose her because I was hurt and resentful that she didn't trust me enough to tell me what had been happening, and on top of that, I was angry with her for spoiling what had seemed to be my best chance of escaping my unhappy marriage. If it hadn't been for finding her diary, maybe I wouldn't have lost the courage to leave. When Max pointed the gun at me, something deep inside me overruled all my maternal instincts, and in a split second of terror and frustration, a moment's unforgivable loss of reason and control, fury took over, and I turned on my daughter. 1 victim, 2 murderers. I became a desperate, accidental accomplice to a crime that has destroyed my entire family. I inflicted on myself the instant, heartbreaking regret that will plague me for a lifetime. Maybe that's why Max then took his own life. He'd acted on a violent impulse, and he couldn't bear to live with the regret. The detective was right. Max was a coward. He has escaped the pain of living with what he did. But I'm still here, and it's too late for me ever to say sorry or to make it better. I can never take it back now. I can never bring my daughter back. So this is what rock bottom feels like. 31. Dom, I need to see Aiden. I sit upright in my bed, feeling a sob building in my chest, pressing like a rock against my heart. I want to hug my daughter so badly, my whole body hurts. I'm overwhelmed by the need to hold my son. Later, when you're feeling stronger. Right now, this is the best place for you, away from all the stresses of home, the gossiping neighbours. I never knew we were such a popular family. So many flowers, they haven't stopped coming for weeks. People certainly love to pop by for a chat when there's a bit of a tragedy to pick over, don't they? He says bitterly, crossing the room to stare vacantly out of the window. I guess everyone wants to pay their respects, I say in a low voice. Have you kept the notes? I ask, the thought of people's messages making my heart leap. I'd love to read them, people's condolences. That would mean so much to me. I'm deeply touched to hear that there has been a stream of flowers for Annabel, and eager to read what has been written about her. What a beautiful tribute. It's such a wonderful reflection on how much she was liked, how much she's missed. At school, her clubs, by everyone who knew her. She's left a hole not just in my life, but in the lives of others. It isn't a consolation, but it is something. The thought of a bundle of letters with Annabel's name on them brings tears to my eyes. Sure, I put them somewhere, he says, turning back towards me with a frown. I'd have to look them out. Bit morbid that, though, isn't it? Don't you think we should just move on, put all this behind us? Put our daughter behind us? Never! I'm not ready to do that, Dom, I say, stunned he can even suggest it. Well, like I say, just take your time. You're fine here. The most important thing is that you get better. He takes 2 long strides towards my bed and rests his big hands on my shoulders, pushing me firmly back against the pillows, leaning over me. The most important thing is that our family has been ripped apart and that it's all my fault. I can't just lie here. Aiden needs me. Aiden is fine. He's not fine. He can't be fine. Look, let's not argue, he says, pulling up a chair next to the bed, and I feel ashamed. I remember him accusing me of believing I was the perfect mother, that I knew our children better than anyone, better than him. Sorry, you're right, I say, taking deep breaths to calm myself. I'm sure you're taking good care of Aiden. It's just that I miss him so very much, and I miss our daughter so badly. Defeat washes over me. I can't make this situation any better. Dom is wrong. Nothing will ever be okay again. That's just the guilt talking. He straightens up and starts pacing the room again. Because of what she wrote in her diary. It was a huge shock to both of us, he says, his voice hard and his mouth a grim line. I hear the subtext. I have to cope with this. Why can't you? I should have known. I never got to help her. I never got to make it better or tell her I was sorry. Tears burst from my eyes and I reach out to Dom, needing his comfort, needing to share this soul-destroying grief with my daughter's father. But he steps back from me, his shoulders hunched. What could you have done to make it better? But Max is dead, Dom barks, and his face is darker than I've ever seen it. He's paid his price. I struggle again to sit up in bed, and I'm surprised when Dom steps across the room to help me this time, pulling back the covers and lifting me out of the bed, carrying me over to the soft tub armchair by the window. His chest is rock hard with tension, but I feel it gradually leave his body as he places me down in the chair and rests his chin on top of my head, wrapping his arms around me. If only she'd told us before, I say, my words muffled against his chest. If only lots of things. Dom steps away from me for a moment to grab a blanket from the end of the bed, draping it over my legs. The small gesture brings tears to my eyes. It feels like years since there's been any real tenderness between us. She must have been so scared, so unhappy. I let her down. It's over now. No one can touch her anymore. No one is ever going to get near her again. He tucks the blanket more tightly around my lap. Sometimes it's a relief when the pain stops and they are at peace, I say softly, remembering the doctor's words and thinking how painfully wise they were. Peace. Is that what you're looking for? His fingertips dig into my thighs. I just wish I never even got to say goodbye. I close my eyes and picture Annabel's face, relieved that the image of it hasn't faded like the photo in my suitcase. I wonder whether Dom has unpacked it, or if it's still sitting in my wardrobe. You are unconscious, Maddie. What are you talking about? He leans closer to my face, frowning, his hands moving up to press down heavily on my shoulders now. No, I mean before that.
I watched her die right in front of me and fuck, what? What did you just say? His big body snaps upright, but his fingertips still grip my shoulders. I'm too shocked by the look on his face to cry out in pain. The hell are you talking about? God, Max really did a number on you, didn't he? What do you mean? I say faintly, as once again the world tilts, blood rushing to my head. I mean, I left Aidan and Jasper at home an hour ago with Lucy and... I stare mutely into Dom's eyes and feel the world spin out of its orbit, shooting off into space. Annabelle was with them. She isn't dead, Maddie. She's never been more alive. Part 3. 32. Visual and auditory hallucinations are often significant symptoms of post-traumatic stress. The whiteboard is back. Professor Hernandez is looking more animated than I have ever seen him. His usual dignified calm has been replaced by almost fevered excitement as he sketches diagrams and jots down notes on the white screen at the end of my room. Hallucinations, I don't buy it. I heard Max instruct me to choose one. I saw Annabelle's body fly across our back garden to lie beneath the rose bushes. I felt her. I clawed my way towards her. I twisted my fingers into her hair and... Just saying the words takes me back there, and I shut my eyes to block out the horrific images. Nothing stops them. They keep on coming, thick and fast, and my eyes are burning from the tears that won't stop coming. My throat feels raw from sobbing for hours. I haven't stopped crying since Dom left. Crying, laughing, crying, laughing. My emotions are all over the place. I'm counting the hours until Dom returns. He said enough was enough. I was clearly going crazy in this place. How could I even have thought the condolence cards were for Annabelle? He wanted to know. They were for me, and I needed to be back where I belonged, at home with my family. He promised he'd be as quick as he could. He just needed to collect some fresh clothes for me and get the twins home from school. He needed to prepare them and Lucy for the big news. Mummy's coming home. I reach for my glass of water and take a huge gulp before leaning back in the armchair next to the window, resting my pounding head and closing my eyes. Annabelle is alive. I feel euphoric, overwhelmed, and completely baffled. It still seems too amazing to be true. I can't stop going over and over in my mind how nothing and no one has pricked the bubble of my delusion in all this time. Before he left, Dom explained that Annabelle had been too traumatized to visit me after my surgery at the West Mid. Aidan has been equally upset, but he had the idea that the familiar sound of the recorder might help to wake me up. I knew I'd been right about that. It just never occurred to me to ask the doctor whether Annabelle had visited along with her brother. It never occurred to me because I believed she was dead. And because I haven't talked about her, no one has asked me about Annabelle. I've said her name, but I've told no one the grim details of my story. Stash didn't bat an eyelid at the idea of my having a daughter at home, and the doctor simply assumed I wasn't talking about her because we'd had some kind of mother-daughter squabble. Only I knew the truth, and my sadness and shame stopped me telling it. While I'm sure it made the news when I was shot, Annabelle's death would have been the story to really grip the media. Yet no child was actually hurt. I expect the incident made the local headlines for a time, but no one has recognised my name at this hospital. And why would they? We're miles out of London, weeks after the shooting. They have hundreds of patients here, and Professor Hernandez said his team had been given my medical case notes, details about my next of kin, but little beyond that. He talked about the bittersweet loss when a child in pain is finally at peace, but he meant generally. He had no idea what had happened to Annabelle. But the detectives, they told me she'd been shot. No, that's not right, I think. They talked about the first shot being misfired.
and I simply assumed the bullet had somehow hit me after killing Annabelle. I was so distressed during the police interview, I heard only what fitted with what I thought I already knew, that Annabelle died and I was injured in the attack. They never mentioned her or Aidan because I was the victim, and Annabelle is alive. I close my eyes and allow the thought to sing through me once again. The miracle of it takes my breath away. The mystery of it still bemuses me. Every time I think I'm getting closer to forming a clear picture of what happened, something emerges to shift the perspective, change the angle, and now the picture has been turned completely upside down and back to front. I need to get home to them all. I want to see them so badly it hurts more than any physical pain I've yet had to endure. Even though it's only lunchtime, Professor Hernandez has closed the curtains and dimmed the lights. He sits down in the armchair opposite me, our knees almost touching, and he continues his explanations. I feel like we've been talking for hours. He must be as exhausted as I am, but he looks as alert and interested as ever. I've poured out every detail I can remember about my marriage, Annabelle, the twins' birthday, my row with Dom, and the events of that terrible morning. It goes completely against the grain of my natural shyness and desire for privacy, but I need the doctor's help to understand. Why did I believe my daughter was dead? Temporary psychosis would not be an unexpected outcome in this situation, he continues, leaning forward in his chair, especially as you had perhaps shown a predisposition towards this kind of episode. Your postnatal depression was, I would suggest, borderline postpartum psychosis that had remained undiagnosed. You think I was already nuts? I screw up my nose, feeling like an idiot. No, but I do think you've been storing up trouble for some time. Motherhood isn't just a biological experience, nor purely an emotional or psychological one. Physiological, even. It's a combination of all these things, and then some. He smiles gently. So I was a nut that cracked, I say wryly. I sigh heavily and shake my head. This is all too much to take in. Let's take it more slowly, then. His voice is low, and he frowns in concentration as he explains. The trigger was extreme terror, of course, an excessive degree of emotional stress, not to mention the physical injury and neurological compromise resulting from the gunshot itself. These are all factors I would determine as contributing to your misapprehension. He rests a comforting hand on my knee, but I brush it off. My daughter's death was a misapprehension. A misapprehension. That won't do. That simply won't do. I'm sorry, that was... Please allow me to phrase it differently. He sits back and rubs tiredly at his eyes, the first sign that he's finding this as difficult as I am. Your belief that Annabelle died was a projection of your deepest fears, Maddie, he says, speaking slowly. You had been feeling extraordinarily guilty about having let her down, and that guilt was greatly exacerbated by fear for her life when the gun was pointed at her. I'm sorry, I still don't get it. I cross my arms, hugging myself to contain my frustration. You don't need to apologize, he says quietly. The brain is the most complex part of our bodies. Even I don't understand all its subtleties, and I've specialized in neurology for almost 30 years. But I will try to put this as simply as I can, okay? He leans forward again, resting his elbows on his knees and clasping his hands lightly together as he continues. How about this? You felt so responsible for not having been able to protect Annabelle from an abuser's unwanted attentions that, at the point you were rendered unconscious by the bullet, your brain instantly
contorted those feelings into a belief that she had died. You projected your anxieties into a distorted reality.
You mean, basically, I made my worst fears come true, I say slowly.
In your imagination, your unconscious mind, yes, exactly that, he confirms.
But it was all so real. If I close my eyes, I can still see it happening as vividly as if it was just yesterday, all of it. I rub my eyes as if I can wipe away those images, but I know they will never leave me.
All of it? Or just Annabelle flying away from you, your arms reaching out to save her? He says, choosing his words so carefully that I know he's making an important point.
You think that was symbolic, I say, my brain inventing that whole scenario as a visual depiction of what I felt I'd done to Annabelle. Failed her, let her slip through my fingers. I look up sharply, convinced that I've grasped it now. I look to his clever face for approval.
I couldn't have put it better myself, he says,
and sits back, smiling gently. My shoulders slump in relief. At least that's something, even if it's not the whole answer. I've wondered. I haven't ever been able to visualize the gunshot. I don't remember gesturing to Annabelle. I don't remember seeing the bullet hit her. I just remember crawling towards her, knowing that I had let her down so appallingly yet again. I put that down to the images being too unbearable for my mind to allow them to come back to me, when all the time it was just not completely real. I cover my face, pressing my fingers punishingly into my eyes. I feel like my mind has tricked me, betrayed me.
Exactly so. Your mind was full of guilt, and guilt became distorted into paranoid conviction. But you had already been shot, Maddie. You were already unconscious. Your brain just filled in the blanks of what happened, replaying everything over and over until it seemed to have made sense of it. The brain does not like mystery, you see. Where it perceives a black hole, it will fill it with the information based on everything it does know.
Will it ever come back to me? Exactly what happened, I mean. The truth, not what my brain has invented to join all the dots. I look into his eyes to be sure that he's giving me a straight answer, but his face blurs through my tears.
Perhaps time will tell.
He smiles again, and I wonder how I will survive without his gentle honesty. I wonder if I will ever see him again after I leave this place. Stash said he's returning to Spain, and Dom will be back soon, and then I'll be going home. There's a knock on the door and my heart jumps, but it's just Carol, calling the doctor away to another emergency. He doesn't rush to leave. He doesn't hurry me as I share one final thought with him. I remembered the rose bushes, the thorns. I remember Annabelle's hair. Something important. There's something important about the rose bushes. I press my knuckles into my eyes again, forcing myself to think, to remember.
I imagine there is, as your brain has continually returned to the image of them. Something significant has lodged in your unconscious mind, but we cannot know whether that will ever be unlocked. Perhaps it will never come back to you.
He nods curtly at the waiting nurse and then leans towards me, taking both my hands in his fingers cool and smooth, his eyes dark with sympathy. But my daughter has. Annabelle is alive. She has come back to me. And that is enough. 33. I find it curious that in the bright dark of my unconscious mind, I was forever dreaming. And yet now, when my mind has healed and returned to full consciousness, my sleep is dreamless. Tired after my session with the doctor, I decide to shuffle my way back into bed and rest until Dom returned, not expecting to fall asleep. I awake with the stark awareness that I haven't dreamed of Annabelle. But I lie here in the dimly lit room, thinking only of her. My daughter is alive. I understand now that my guilt at letting Annabelle down became twisted, distorted by my traumatized brain into a conviction that she'd been shot and killed. And I get that Max wanted to punish me and at the same time bury the truth about his interest in Annabelle. What I still don't understand is how it came to be that Annabelle lived and I almost died. I wonder if it means that, in the end, Max was driven more by anger towards me than a need to cover up how he'd been pursuing my daughter. After all, he took his own life. He knew he would never be prosecuted for how he'd been grooming her. It didn't matter if she lived. It only mattered that I died. Or perhaps he simply couldn't bring himself to hurt his niece, either through a belated attack of conscience or because he adored her too much. Maybe he pointed the gun at Annabelle but changed his mind at the last moment, misfiring it and missing his target, me. Or perhaps it means I didn't choose Annabelle after all. I have no way of knowing. As Dom said, dead men tell no tales. And now the police have closed the case because, as far as they're concerned, the victim survived and the perpetrator is dead. They can't arrest Max. There can be no murder trial. Only it was never Max's guilt that tormented me. It was mine. When I was forced at gunpoint to choose between my two children, whose name did I speak? No favourites. I love my children equally. Dom has always maintained that I love Aidan best. Ever since the nightmare in Cornwall, it's like he's been obsessed with me having a favourite child. And even though Annabelle is alive, perhaps because she's alive and waiting for me at home, it feels more important than ever to know how I answered, what I said. I still have no clear memory of what actually happened on the morning of the twins' birthday, and Dom can't help me, nor can the police. There were only 2 witnesses. I know that my last hope of finding peace again lies with my children, holding them, loving them, and asking them the question that still burns in my mind. What did Mummy do? 34. Grab your coat, we're going home. I can't stop smiling as Dom hands me my jacket, carefully helping me slip my arms into the sleeves, and then supporting me as I make a clumsy lunge into the wheelchair. I take one last look at my room, whispering goodbye in my head to the platoon of machines still standing to attention in readiness for a new patient, followed by a proper thank you and a goodbye spoken aloud to Carol and everyone gathered at the nurse's station. I forgot my wind chimes, and I wanted to say goodbye to Stash too, I say, looking over my shoulder. But Dom is already wheeling me off down the long corridor out of the hospital and into the real world for the first time in what feels like an eternity. It's an amazing place. Confined by my fragility to the immediate vicinity of my room, I hadn't realised. I look wonderingly around me and blink back tears as I take in trees, a beautiful garden, and a huge blue sky lit up with autumn sunshine. I gasp deep breaths of crisp, fresh air, drawing it greedily into my lungs, closing my eyes and allowing the sense of freedom to soak into me. It feels so good to be alive. To know that my children are alive and waiting for me at home, safe and being cared for by Lucy, my best friend. I feel a pang of regret for the suspicions I harboured about her. All this time she's been living in my home, Dom told me, caring for my children. Despite knowing the difficulties I'd had with Dom, despite how anxious and uncomfortable that must have made her, she put her own feelings aside to look after the twins, keeping them safe for me until I came home. She'd given up her flat, which would account for the disconnected phone line. It still doesn't explain why I haven't been able to get hold of Lucy on her mobile, though. I make a mental note to ask her when I see her. I can't wait to see my friend again, but above all, I'm fizzing with desperation to see the twins, longing to hold them and reassure them that I'm fine, that we're all going to be fine. They must have been in pieces witnessing their mother being shot. I squeeze my eyes tightly shut against the painful thought, hoping and praying that they didn't also see their uncle turn the gun on himself. Dom said they've refused to say anything at all about that day, and that he's just giving them time and space, and hopefully, when I'm home, we can talk things through as a family. That moment is all I can think of now. Home. This hospital has been my home for more than 3 months, and while I'm not sad to leave, there is one person I will genuinely miss. I didn't get to see Professor Hernandez before Dom collected me. Carol told me the doctor hadn't yet returned after being called away urgently to see another patient, but he was expected back later. I wanted to wait for him, only Dom was fidgeting restlessly for us to leave. He'd driven like a maniac to get back to me as fast as possible, and he said he just wanted to get me out of there and home where I belonged. He didn't stop pacing and pointedly checking his watch while another consultant examined me and somewhat reluctantly pronounced me fit for discharge on condition that I see my regular GP in the morning. Dom barely glanced at the advisory leaflets on how to keep up my exercises and the importance of good nutrition before shoving them in his jacket pocket. I could sense his bristling impatience as the consultant meticulously completed all my paperwork, before explaining that he would make contact right away with my GP to book an out-of-hours checkup first thing tomorrow. The consultant was doing his best not to be pressured into rushing, but eventually Dom simply brushed him off. "That's all fine then, you've got our details. Now if you don't mind, we need to hit the road." I was taken aback by his abruptness. Usually so charming, even smooth-talking, his rudeness seemed uncharacteristic. These doctors had brought me back to life. I owed them everything, and I had expected a little more gratitude from Dom too. I saw the startled look on the consultant's face and smiled apologetically, putting Dom's brusqueness down to anxiety about getting back to the children. I was just as eager, and only wished it had been Professor Hernandez seeing us off. It didn't feel right to leave without thanking him in person. "Please tell Professor Hernandez I'll email him as soon as I'm home, just to, say thank you, and to let him know how I'm doing." No, that sounded presumptuous, I thought. Perhaps the doctor wouldn't have the slightest interest in how I got on once I was no longer under his care. "If he'd like to know, that is," I added. "But mainly, I just want to thank him, really. He's done so much for me. I couldn't be more grateful for everything. I want him to know that. You won't forget, will you?" "I'll see he gets the message," the consultant reassured me, shaking my hand. "I know Sebastian has been particularly concerned about you, and he'll want to speak to your GP after you see her tomorrow. It is rather premature for you to be leaving hospital by normal standards, and you will need to pursue the physiotherapy program the GP will put in place. But I appreciate you prefer to continue your rehabilitation from the comfort of your own home. I must stress, however, that your treatment will need to continue as an outpatient, and we're off," Dom said, tipping my wheelchair back like I was doing wheelies, pushing me out of the examination room and back to my room to collect my jacket and get ready to leave. I laughed. There was really no reason to delay any longer, and in any case I was buzzing to get home myself. I waved and called out one last thank you, then gripped the arms of the wheelchair, worried I was going to spill out of it at the speed Dom was pushing me. I smiled at his eagerness, feeling a wave of hope and happiness sweep me along in the wake of his high spirits. His car is parked on the drive right outside the front doors, in readiness for a quick exit, and while he opens the boot ready to stow the fold-up wheelchair inside, I swivel myself round to look up in awe at the impressive red brick building, seeing it for the first time from the outside, thinking of the day I was carried up those steps on a stretcher. There would have been no flashing emergency lights, no screaming sirens. I had already been operated on, and they'd brought me here to recuperate after my surgery at the West Mid. I must try to find out the name of that doctor, I think, wanting to thank whoever had saved my life in the first instance. It's so strange to think of all that frantic activity happening while I was unconscious, oblivious to everything, already locked deep inside my mind, plummeting back into the past and spiralling through memories. And Aidan, my darling boy, working through every recorded tune he knew, trying his best to wake me up. And it had worked. I did hear it. I wonder if I might have woken sooner if Annabel had visited me. She never came alive to me in my dreams. My brain had well and truly absorbed the fact of her death and made it a reality. I don't blame her for not wanting to see me in that terrible state. But I'm also proud of my son, who, for once, had been brave enough to be one step ahead of his sister rather than linger 2 steps behind. I'm proud of both my children and feel so lucky to have them, to be going home to them. My beautiful twins. I can't stop thinking of them. As Dom helps me into the car and we cruise slowly down the drive, I twist around to take one last look at the hospital and then turn back to stare eagerly at the road ahead, praying for a smooth, trouble-free journey so I can get home quickly to Annabel and Aidan. I'm aching to see them. Dom mentioned our wedding anniversary, but first we need to celebrate the twins' 10th birthday, I think happily. We never even got to taste the birthday cake I went to so much trouble to make. Lulled by daydreams and the motion of the car, I nod off, but not before vowing to myself that I will never take a second of my life or my children's lives for granted ever again. I know Dom and I still have a lot to talk about, and there will need to be some significant changes. But from now on, I'm going to stop looking back to the past and keep my eyes firmly fixed on the future. 35. You've turned off too early, I say sleepily, waking up in time to see that we've come off the A4 and are heading down Scion Lane. Better to stay on a bit longer, isn't it, and go direct to Hampton? Twickenham will be solid at this time on a Friday afternoon. I rub my eyes. They feel gritty and tired. My legs and back are stiffening up from sitting in the car for so long. I slowly rotate my head to ease out the knots of tension. I just need to stop off somewhere first, Dom tells me, resting a reassuring hand on my knee. Go back to sleep for a bit. He's got his Ray-Bans on, and I smile, remembering how Lucy always used to tease him for wearing them even when it's not sunny. I lean my head against the window and peer out, noticing that as afternoon gives way to evening, it's clouding over, the sky darkening to an oppressive leaden storminess that reflects against the seemingly endless rows of terraced houses, making it feel like we're driving through a dull grey tunnel. We're a long way from the green openness of the Buckinghamshire countryside. I think it might thunder, I say, pulling my jacket more tightly around me. I shiver, but it's partly through sudden apprehension. I know Dom and I have some serious talking to do when we're home, and the closer we get, the more I can't help but worry about the conversations to come. I try really hard to put those thoughts aside for now, telling myself to focus on one thing at a time. I need to concentrate first on getting home and enjoying hot chocolate and lots of cuddles with the twins. My eyes mist over at the thought of it. I rub my hands up and down my arms to comfort myself. Cold? Don't worry, not long now. Great. I hope Lucy will keep the twins up for me. What did they say when you told them I'm coming home? I bet Annabel was dancing around the room and Aidan just sat there grinning. But they're happy and excited, right? You know the twins. Dom says, eyes fixed on the road in concentration.
I just can't wait to see them,
I say, smiling until I catch sight of the signs for the West Middlesex Hospital. Goosebumps prickle up the back of my neck as we drive past it, and I crane my neck to look at the queue of ambulances lining up outside A&E. Hope I don't ever have to set foot in that place again, Dom says grimly. Me too. Not that I can actually remember being there. It's straight on here, isn't it? I add, as he turns right into Mogden Lane. It's not like him to get his directions mixed up. On any car journey, long or short, Aidan always tries to outsmart his dad by knowing the fastest, most direct route. But Dom is never wrong. He has a brain like a spreadsheet. Nope, he says shortly. But this is the way to... I break off as I'm suddenly overcome by queasiness. Quickly I lean forward to rest my elbows on my knees, dipping my head to stem the sudden hot, sickening rush of anxiety flooding through me. Sit back, sweetheart. I can't see the wing mirror.
Why are we going into the Ivy Bridge estate?
I ask weakly, obediently leaning back but still feeling sick. I try to keep my voice steady, not wanting to admit that my legs are trembling at the thought of going anywhere near the estate where he and his brother grew up. Just need to check on something. Sorry, yes, it's at Max's, he says, glancing apologetically at me before turning back to watch the road. But hear me out before you start panicking.
But I am panicking. Surely you don't expect me to go inside your brother's...
It'll only take a second. He indicates left and turns sharply into Summerwood Road, the steering wheel making a slithery, rasping noise as it slips through his hands when he straightens up and slowly steers the car along the winding road, weaving through the imposing grey tower blocks. We look up anxiously at them as we head deeper into the estate, deeper into Dom's past. This is where he was born. This is the place he was so desperate to escape. He made it, and I know he's always avoided coming back here. And I can't believe he's brought me here after what Max did. I'm shocked into silence, staring mutely out of the windscreen, wondering if I'll actually recognise Max's house, wondering if we'll find it cordoned off by blue and white police tape, identifying it as the home of a killer, advertising it as an unoccupied building ripe for looting. I notice a group of 7 or 8 boys, not much older than Aidan, loitering under a lamppost at the junction, smoking and eyeballing Dom's car as we crawl past, pointing at us and jostling with each other. I glance nervously in the wing mirror, watching them disappear into the distance behind us. One of the boys flicks a V sign for no apparent reason, but I don't pay him serious attention. My eyes are fixed on the bend in the road. I'm trying to remember the way in, just in case Dom forgets the way out. When he pulls up at the curb in front of a dark-bricked, flat-fronted 1970s-style terraced townhouse, I can see that there is no police tape, but the windows of the house are boarded up with wooden slats.
I'll wait here for you.
I can hear the breathlessness in my voice. Ah, what? I say impatiently. Well, the truth is, there's something I want to show you. Need to. He takes off his Ray-Bans and turns to look at me, his eyes piercing.
Show me?
Adrenaline is still pumping through me, and I feel upset that Dom wouldn't realise how awful it is for me to come here. Photos. Family ones. I've only just discovered Max had them and, well, I thought somehow they might help to bring us both some closure on what he's done. They belong to... He breaks off, rubbing his hands over his face.
Okay,
I say slowly, watching him struggle to get his emotions under control.
But I'd still rather wait here. If you could maybe bring them.
They're framed on his wall. In any case, if I carry you, it won't take long. No need to bring the wheelchair. Without waiting for my response, he swings out of the car, and within seconds I'm in his arms, and we're standing outside Max's front door. I push against his shoulder in panic. Please, I don't want to go in there. All that's missing is a white dress and a veil, eh? Oh, and a bouquet of roses. Sorry, roses, what? My heart is pounding so loudly in my ears as I watch him unlock the white PVC door that I can't take in what he's saying. I glance over his shoulder to see if any neighbours are around, anyone watching us enter the house. I'm suddenly filled with a cold sense of dread. If no one sees us go in, no one will be any the wiser if we don't come out. I try to tell myself that I'm getting in a state for no good reason. Something has definitely shifted in Dom's mood. I remember the signs all too well. Back in the bright dark, I relived every single one of them, and they crawl sickeningly back into my mind now. Something old, something new. Takes you back, doesn't it? Me carrying you over the threshold, he says, striding into the small dark hallway and kicking the door shut behind him. It gets caught on the latch and doesn't close properly, so he gives it a final heavy kick with his boot to slam it shut. The sound echoes through the empty, bare-boarded hall. Oh! The sick feeling in the pit of my stomach intensifies. The house is freezing cold and it smells damp and musty, but it's the look on Dom's face that's making me feel faint, nauseous, and suddenly very afraid. 36. Here comes the bride. Perhaps we should check out the master bedroom first. Pretend we really are newlyweds and this is a fresh start for us. He winches me more tightly against his chest and begins to climb the steep stairs. Slowly, one heavy footstep at a time. No, stop. I don't want to go up there, I say, starting to panic in earnest now as he carries me up the narrow staircase and onto a dingy landing. He doesn't reply, but barges open the first door ahead of us with his shoulder, leaning against the light switch inside to turn on a single bare bulb. It must be only 40 watts, as it hardly illuminates the surprisingly large square bedroom, but there is enough light for me to see a metal-framed double bed in the middle. A bed with a white mattress and nothing else. No bedding, no other furniture, no curtains or carpet on the stripped floorboards. And absolutely no sign of any photos on the wall. Are you sure, though, Maddie? Because I thought you'd love one last chance to roll around on my brother's bed.
Dom.
Make you feel good, did he? Treat you better than I do. Good old Max, always itching to get his hands on whatever's mine, always hanging around, ready to step into his brother's shoes. He tosses me down onto the bare mattress and reaches deep into the right-hand pocket of his trousers. Always ready to climb into my bed and fuck my wife. He roots around for a few seconds more before pulling out a key and striding back to the door. The grinding crunch of the lock echoes ominously in the empty room. I feel it low down in my belly. Dom turns to me with a smile on his face, and I lurch to the side of the bed, duck my head over the side, and throw up.
Why, Dom? Why are you keeping me here?
I know I shouldn't plead. That's not the way to get through to him, but I can't play his mind games anymore. To give you time to think, of course. He stands next to the bed, legs spread, hands on hips. About what? About everything you've done. What you're going to do next.
I don't understand.
It makes two of us. I just don't get why you thought Annabelle was dead. Where did such an idea even come from? It's the third time he's asked me, jacket off, crisp white shirt sleeves rolled neatly back, looming over me while I cower at the head of the double bed, my back pressed against the cold, peeling, white-painted wall.
I told you, I don't know.
I rub my hands over my face, trying to ignore the acidic smell of vomit in the already stuffy room. Dom doesn't seem remotely bothered by it. He stands like a bodyguard, big body arrogantly upright, shoulders back, watching me with that same small smile. There is no way I can explain to him how my mind has played tricks on me. It's not that I don't think he'll understand. He's clever, too clever. He's clearly laid a trap for me, and he'll turn everything he can against me. One hint of the guilt I'd been feeling on the morning of the twins' birthday, the guilt that my shattered mind transformed into an incredibly powerful, incredibly real image of Annabel's death, and he'll have me cornered. I can't admit the choice I made because I know he's going to use every last bit of ammunition he has against me. To confess my deepest shame now would be like handing him a loaded gun. Yet he won't take no for an answer. Same old Dom. I thought tragedy had changed us both. He's been giving a first-rate impression of a concerned, devoted husband. He had me, and everyone else, I think despairingly, utterly fooled. You must have had a reason. What did Max say to you before he pulled the trigger? He persists, leaning towards me now. I press myself harder against the wall, desperate to keep some distance between us. He said nothing at all. The twins must have told you that. It's a calculated risk. I want to know what Annabel and Aidan saw, what they heard. I'm hoping I can bluff Dom into telling me. Is that right? Max said nothing. Just wandered into our back garden with a gun in his hand, a balaclava over his head, and shot you for not running away with him. And then, in an agony of guilt and despair, shot himself. His laugh is an angry bark. He was more stupid than I thought then. I can think of any number of ways to punish you that don't involve me ending up with my brains splattered over our rose bushes. But why would you want to punish me? I didn't leave you. I'm still here. I'm still willing to give our marriage another go, in spite of... His face is only inches away from mine. His blue eyes squint accusingly at me. Nothing, I say, not wanting to incite him further by mentioning the physical and emotional cruelty that coloured the last year of our marriage. It's a curious delusion, though, wouldn't you agree? I wonder if maybe you were... I'm not quite sure how to put this. His voice softens, but without tenderness. He's taunting me. Losing your mind? His brow creases as he ponders the possibility. No, I was just... So many words bubble up, overwhelming me. I can't begin to explain what I was. I only know what I am now. Frightened, desperate, yearning for my children. If Dom keeps me here, locking me up while he returns to our home, to the twins, that means they will be alone with him, and in the state of mind he's in. Lucy is there too, I remind myself urgently, trying to quell my flash of panic at the thought of the twins being in danger. She won't let any harm come to Annabel and Aidan. I know she won't. But would she really be able to protect them? Is she even there, or is Dom lying? It wouldn't surprise me. His behaviour has been so plausible, so conciliatory up until now. But it's clear that it's all been an act. I have absolutely no idea how many lies he's been telling me and everyone else. What lies he's still telling, or what he intends to achieve with them. He clearly has an agenda. I can't even begin to guess what it is. I suddenly wonder if there's another, darker reason for Lucy's mobile phone not being recognised by the network. But even if it was simply a fault on the line, I don't have a phone to call her. I don't have anything but the soft Ugg boots, black leggings and grey hoodie Dom brought for me to wear. My oldest, round-the-house clothes feel somehow symbolic, as if he's reminding me of my place in life. I know you've been through a trauma, I understand that. He's pacing the room now, his footsteps heavy on the wooden boards. I'm not mad, Dom, I say desperately, scrabbling to my knees, guessing where he's going with this. You don't have to keep me locked up. I'm not a nutcase, a danger to society or my children. Professor Hernandez explained to me... Oh, the handsome Spanish doctor, he says. What am I going to do with you? Flitting from one man to the next. That's not fair. He's old enough to be my father, and in any case, he's been helping me. My voice is a dry croak. How I wish I hadn't left that hospital before I'd spoken to Professor Hernandez. But I was so desperate to get home to the twins. I was completely fooled by Dom's concern. 3 months ago he walked out in anger. I thought he'd returned with an olive branch, but it's just another stick to beat me with. What's not fair is that you were leaving me. Legs planted wide apart, he moves to stand at the end of the bed, his finger jabbing accusingly as he lists my crimes. You'd packed your bag, hidden your little photo, bought your train tickets. You'd been plotting and planning with Max right under my nose. Sneaky, deceitful. I'm sorry, I have no memory of any of that. I hold out a hand to him, but he ignores it. So convenient, isn't it, memory loss? And yet I was willing to forgive you. I know I'm to blame for not being the perfect husband, the dream man you fantasized about. But good old Max was, wasn't he? The dark horse. Never saw him with a woman of his own. Turns out he had his eye on mine the whole time. I have no idea what was in your brother's mind, but I'm sure I've never thought of him in that way. I never compared you with him, I tell him urgently. If there was anything between me and Max... I shake my head in disbelief, drawing a mental blank. I just can't even imagine it. You can't. The trouble is I can, all too easily. The bored housewife stuck at home. Max always coming round, always available to help out while I was caught up in meetings or working late. He lacked my flair, of course. He was rough round the edges, he says bluntly. But some women like that, don't they? He was the twins' uncle. I never thought... That's the trouble with you. You don't think. I bet you've never even stopped to ask yourself how I feel about all this. He darts round the side of the bed again, and instinctively I lurch away from him, falling back against the thin mattress. He bends over me, arms braced either side of my head. Of course I have, I tell him, trying to stay calm. I know how dreadful it's been for you, and for the children. It has for me too. It's like a living nightmare. Being in hospital all this time. Being apart from my children. My voice cracks, and I fall silent. His big hands grip my shoulders, shooting pained signals into my brain. I've lost so much weight that my usual curves have all but vanished. There's hardly any padding of flesh to protect my still fragile bones. Surely you don't expect sympathy from me. Huh, that's rich. You plot and scheme to disappear from my life, breaking up the family I've done so much for. Then you have the nerve to ask me to feel sorry for you now. His voice is getting louder now. I hope he starts shouting. I hope a neighbour hears and comes to investigate. For a second I feel hopeful. Then I remind myself that no one ever knocked on my front door in Hampton. The most attention our endless rows ever attracted was a few sympathetic glances from old Mr. Cooper next door when I popped round to take him a hot meal. And if no one in my leafy, comfortable middle-class street bothered to find out what was going on behind closed doors, what chance is there of anyone being bothered here? On this unloved estate where families come and go and everybody knows to mind their own business and not to ask too many questions. I don't want pity. I just want to go home. We can work it out. I know we can. I try to inject as much sincerity and conviction into my voice as I can. But I shrink away from him as I see his face harden. I can't let you do that, Maddie. Not yet. His voice is soft, but his blue eyes are chips of ice. You were leaving me. You were leaving me, and you were going to take the twins with you. Sneak out after their birthday party with me none the wiser, looking like an idiot surrounded by gossips and pity. He's glaring at me, but at the same time there's that hint of a smile on his face still. I remember this, Dom. He feels familiar to me now. He's finally dropped all pretense. The gloves are off. Smile, punch, smile, punch. I've raised the twins, he continues, his big hand jerking out to cover my mouth when I open it to respond. I've given them everything I had in me, and you were going to take all that away from me. So I have to be sure, you see.
You have to prove to me that you're not going to do that again before I let you come back. If you can do that, if you're a good girl and do everything I ask of you, then I might, perhaps, be prepared to let you see Annabelle and Aidan again. I squirm and choke, unable to catch my breath against the pressure of his hand. I smell cigarette smoke on his fingers. I didn't know Dom had started smoking. The stench of it makes me feel sick again. Nausea rushes up into my mouth and everything starts to go black. You mustn't worry, though. Softly now, feeling that my resistance is gone, my body turning limp. Lucy is taking excellent care of the kids. They love her, she loves them. They're safe with us now, and that's precisely where they're going to stay. He pulls on my ponytail, jerking my head back until I gag on the vomit rushing up into my throat. He waits until I've stopped coughing. Barely conscious, I hear his rasping voice in my ear. They don't even know you're awake.
End of Disc 6.